All right, so let's get started here. I got Brian Swift, or do we say Brian P. Swift?
No.
Okay, I see that on the on your social media, so I didn't know if I should keep that in there or not. And so Brian's a guy who was paralyzed 40 years now.
40 years.
40 years now. Football injury when he was in high school, and what position did you play in high school? What was
You
going
know what?
on?
I wasn't playing in high school at the time. It was the day after Christmas. Like a lot of the guys in you played at Thanksgiving, you played at Christmas. So we had about 15 guys out there playing
Just
football.
to pick up game.
Pickup game,
Yep.
tackle, and I happened to intercept a pass and was running, and I just got tackled from behind. So I didn't fall on my head. I didn't fall on my neck funny. I just went straight down face first. Nothing traumatic. I mean, I've been hit harder. So there's no rationale for the why.
Yeah, and okay, so in this podcast, I want to talk about things that are like that the general public wouldn't understand, like a complete injury and an incomplete injury. You said your injury is complete, so is mine. And then your injuries at what level? What's the
C5, C6.
C5, C6, and I'm C6, C7. So we were talking before the podcast. I have slightly a little more hand function. Like I can move my thumb, and Brian doesn't have that. Like I can just pinch a couple things, maybe grab an ass or two. But
Spasm, of course. You know that happens.
right. Oh well, I'll tell you what. Like, I don't, have you ever had like baclofen or any of that kind of stuff? I don't.
No,
I don't
no, I'm no medicine, no pain medicine or
No, I don't
spasm
take
medicine.
anything either. Now I'm 17 years paralyzed come this March, and like they offer things like to get rid of the spasms and stuff. The spasms are annoying, no doubt, right? Like when you're sleeping and things start moving and everything else, it's a big pain in the ass. But I use my spasms to transfer, like my tone, I should say.
Right.
So like another misconception. The reason I want to have some guys in wheelchairs on the podcast, and I'm going to have a bunch of different people, is there's way too many misconceptions, and then in my experience in 17 years, everybody that assumes something assumes wrong. They're way off. I've had people tell me like, tell me what I can't eat and what I can eat, and I'm like, you know what I'm talking about. And then like everybody that's in a chair is different. And there was a guy that I was kind of like talking with, trying to like, he just got paralyzed. He was a pipe fitter, had a pipe explode, and he got paralyzed in his low back. He's a low para. Like they could probably fit him for some braces, and he might be able to with things walk. And I said, listen, don't take any offense, but the difference between you and me is the difference between a guy that's walking around and you. Like it's totally different. We have a situation where if you're paralyzed from your chest down, you don't have torso control. So you're constantly using something to balance with, or you have, I have like side guards on my backrest that keep me from falling side to side sort of situation. Now, I get my hands in there and try and make sure I don't fall either and try and stay balanced. But a guy that's paralyzed from his waist down, he can do sit-ups. Like he can.
Oh, it's night and day.
Right.
You can't even compare them.
No, you can't. Now, I don't give anybody anything like. There are things that are definitely more difficult for us than they are for him because he can do these things. But that doesn't. There's people that are walking around just fine that are having a bad day, and they're like telling me about it. Like, look at me, telling you about my bad day. I'm like, hey. Everybody's got flat tires. Everybody's got a thing that goes on in their life that pisses them off. My injury stuff, I use it in a way when there's a day that's bad, and I've had bad days unrelated to the injury. Bad days in business, bad days at work, bad days with the kids. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong, sort of thing. Days, and they always aren't as bad because I've had a worse day. You know what I mean? Like. The day I broke my neck was a worse day. So I'm not going to be too worried about the fact that my car didn't start or something like that happened.
Well, perspective's so important. As I tell my kids, it's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems.
Right.
It's always somewhere in between, and you got to remember that. And nothing is permanent.
Sure.
Everything's changing. Even though I've been in the chair 40 years, nothing's permanent. I still believe that. That tomorrow could be a better day, and the day after that could be better. I also subscribe that you talked about people in wheelchairs and perceptions. The perception of the disability community has changed from when I first got hurt to what's out there now. In my opinion, not in a very good way. The lack of people feeling empowered to make the life that you have here, and we talked earlier about all the things you do, is out there. It's out there for them. You didn't win the lottery and all of a sudden your life became awesome.
No,
You
right,
figured it
right.
out, and you did it with your family.
Sure.
I mean, that's
Right. There's sort of a situation too where so I broke my neck on a construction job, but 2 months before I broke my neck, my ex-wife signed me out of workman's comp. So I had no insurance when I broke my neck.
wow.
And so like I mean, again, I still don't the money doesn't matter as much as some people would think. So I have 2 friends that are in chairs. One's a para, the other one's a quad, and one guy I think got like several million. I'm not going to say how much because it doesn't matter. And I don't look at them for that money or anything like that. But their lifestyle is obviously different because of the money, and it makes it easier for them to live their lives. But they still have a daily deal with everything that I have to deal with too. So like I don't, I'm in no way, shape, or form jealous of the money. In fact, I can look at it in certain ways and be like, I can do more than that guy because I didn't have someone there to do it for me, sort of thing. And then, my sons are with me for the most part, but there are definitely weeks where we're so busy and they're busy with wrestling that I'm alone for the entire week. Like it is what it is. So I'm 100% like on my own. I got my vehicle, I jump in it, I can go get some food, I can do whatever I want to do on my own. Like it's completely independent. Where some of these other guys that were, the settlement thing doesn't matter or anything. It's the fact that they were married when they got injured. They stayed married. I used to go to the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. They would call me up and say, hey, we've got this guy that's in. He just got paralyzed. He's really feeling down. He needs somebody to talk to. And I would come in there and talk to him for a couple hours about things. And we would go over the whole thing. What I always found funny with those guys was the first question that they wanted to ask, they didn't ask for.
Sex.
Yes, yeah. It was always that. You could see it on the back of their brain waiting. They'd ask 2 or 3 questions about something else first.
Yep.
And
it hasn't. Yep.
Then we get there.
Sex.
Right, and we would be crazy because it would be like 20 minutes spent on everything else, and then the other 40 or 50 minutes was all spent on sex. How's this going to work out? And I'm like, dude, it's going to be fine. But when I went down there the one time, there was a guy back at the hospital for what they call a second look. When he was in the hospital the first time, he was so cantankerous, such a pain in the ass, he didn't want to learn anything. He's like, the fuck with this? I'm not going to teach myself how to get dressed. I'm not going to teach myself how to I'm not going to teach myself how to do anything. I'm going to get out of here, go home. My wife, he went home. His wife was doing everything for him. She sounded like the biggest sweetheart in the world. He was at the hospital, and I'm like, so why are you back here? And he's like, well, I got buddies, and I wanted to go camping and stuff, and I need to learn how to do these things on my own. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, you've got a wife that's going to take care of you. The reason you're here isn't to make life easier on her. It's so you can go out with your buddies and do what you want to do, which that's great. Whatever gets you to that point, then do that. But he was a state champion wrestler, and he still had the work ethic wasn't there when it came to that stuff,
Right.
But so anyways, so everybody's different. Everyone's got different struggles as far as that goes. And, this guy needed to learn all that stuff, to do all that stuff. And we talked for quite a while. We knew a bunch of people in common and stuff like that. But it really has to do with your attitude towards what you want to do. And then some of it was, for me, was necessity. I was put in a basement where I couldn't get out of there. And I had choices. I had a situation where I was newly paralyzed. Every time something happened, like I fell out of the chair or something like that, I have to get a phone, call somebody, they got to get me. Finally, one time that I was trying to do something, tipped the chair, flipped out of it. I'm on the ground, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not calling anybody. I'm going to get this done. So there was a couch down in this basement that I was in. I'm like, all right, my plan is going to be that I'm going to drag my ass over to that couch. I'm going to pull the cushions off the couch, get on the cushions. Then I'm going to get on the couch with no cushions, put the cushions back on there, get on the cushions. Then I'm going to get back in the chair. So I drag my ass over there, do all that. It took almost 3 hours to get this whole situation done, where I'm sitting on the couch with the cushions and I'm ready to get in the chair. Problem is, I forgot the chair on the other side of the room. So then it was throw yourself back on the floor, crawl across the... Now I'm getting actually better at it because I've already done it once.
Wow.
So it takes me about an hour and a half to get everything put back together. I'm back and I get in the chair. Then I realized that in my process crawling across the Berber carpeting to get the chair, I lost my sandal. My toenail got hooked in the Berber carpeting and ripped that off my foot. There's blood everywhere. But when I was done with it, I was like, all right, it only took me about 5-6 hours. I got to pee real bad, but I got it done. Now if I fall out of my chair, I got this covered. Yeah. So, that's pretty much how I approached everything. Was like, listen, you're afforded this time. Do something with yourself. Figure it out. Don't be dependent on anybody. And I did things like, I got the Rosetta Stone stuff, and I started learning German. And started speaking a second language and stuff like that. Try to utilize my time. Every time I went back to the hospital, though, I ran into guys who were doing the opposite.
Oh,
They were just watching TV.
Yeah. No, guys like you are a rare breed, unfortunately, because what you did is in all of our ability to try and fail. So you fail. I don't understand why people are so afraid to try and worried about failing. I tell my kids, the kids I coach, it's okay to fail. I mean, it's okay to try something and not be good at it. That's why you practice. That's
right.
What happens. You don't do it the right way, and now you learn. In the rehab, your situation, same thing with me. I used to go back to RIC and do a lot of peer mentoring because my when I broke my neck, my life was a little different. I was a little younger than you. I still lived at home, so I did have more support than you had.
Sure.
Although we lived in a raised ranch home, we had a ramp that was like a ski hill to get into it. So that made it interesting. My kind dad actually put a tree at the bottom of the ramp on the parkways to make sure that if I came down too fast, I wouldn't end up in the street.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you how my dad worked. When I got home from the rehab, and it was different back in the day. They told you everything you couldn't do. You will never walk. You will probably end up in a home. You probably can't get a good job. It was just, I felt bombarded by all the stuff I couldn't, by all the stuff that, you've got to get an electric wheelchair and you're going to need a lot of care and and finally I just told them, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to, I don't know what the future holds for me.
And that was counter to what and I think the pendulum swung the other way too much because they would tell you, like they had a whole seminar on stem cell where they were like, you're going to walk. And I'm like, and at first your thoughts are anything to walk, right? That's the whole thing. I still get people, this is another one of the misconceptions out there. I'm 17 years, Brian's 40, and I won't speak for him, but I don't think about walking at all. I think about what I got to do in my day. I don't even think about, oh, hey, I wish that they would. Listen, if someone brings it up, then I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice, it'd be fine. But it's not something that's on my agenda. I'm not scouring the internet for cures in Colombia or Portugal or.
You mean you don't want to put on an exoskeleton and
right,
walk around in
no,
$100,000?
seems,
I agree. I don't either. And I found the cure for paralysis. A lot of people disagree with me, but the cure for paralysis is in living, not walking. And I subscribe to that. It's in my books. And too many people, as you stated, are worried about walking again and not living. And not for 1 minute did I put my life on hold. So I got hurt my last semester of high school. I graduated high school on time. And that summer, I started going to junior college. There was no stopping. I mean, and there was no sympathy. There was no, it was just get up and move forward. What's the next step? So,
right.
My dad is old school Irish and, just move forward. My mom's Irish and, there was just no complaining. You didn't grow up that way as a kid.
Right.
So that wasn't going to happen. So I just kept moving forward. I dated. It took me a bunch of years to drive again, but I graduated from junior college and then went to St. Xavier University, graduated from there, went on to law school. I just kept looking for the next thing. If walking was going to happen, I figured it'd be by the grace of God. If that's what he wants, that's fine.
Right.
But in the meantime, like you, I don't talk about it. I don't think about it.
No,
I don't.
no.
I mean,
So I appreciate when people send me links to, the brand new secret surgery in Mexico. I'm not going to go to Mexico. So, you can stop doing that. You can just enjoy my company and we'll hang out. I know your heart's in the right place, but it's really not a thing. And I can also guarantee you that if there was a cure for this, there's some, I don't know, 200,000 people that are in our situation in this country. It would be front page news, and then, we would all get it figured out and everything else. And, I've had talks in the gym with my sons. I said, the day that ever happens, because they'll bring it up. And I'm like, the day that ever happens, I'll be in the gym, like, because I'm going to get, I'm going to be the first guy running again. Like, that's going to be the way. But until it happens, I'm not worried about it. I got things to do.
it won't happen in our lifetime, and it might not happen in the next person's lifetime because there's no money in curing people.
No.
There's no money in curing people. I believe they have a cure for cancer, but you can't make money curing cancer. You can
Right.
make a lot of money through medicating people, through putting them in the hospital, through trying to keep them alive for a while until their body naturally gives out. But I believe there's cures for a lot of things out there. We won't see a cure for paralysis. There's no money in it, and that may
Right.
sound jaded, but to
Yeah,
some
I don't
degree,
know
I
how,
believe
right.
that.
See, with the paralysis, I always kind of believed the same thing, but paralysis, if I really look at it, I think there would be money in it. I think there'd be first money in the therapy to get it done, and then, like, people don't understand that if you don't walk for just a couple years, you'd have to retrain your brain completely to do that again. I mean, if the day that they had that, if it was tomorrow, we'd be like infants. We'd have to learn how to do the balance. Everything would be all brand new
Yes.
again. So you'd be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars just in therapy per person to get done. We're honestly right. Cancer's another one that if they came out with a cure where they could just shoot you with a shot and then you were cured, well, now you're done. Where when you have cancer, you're chemo and you're constant.
Right.
So that it's a little bit different. And that, you're basing that just on
It's my own
cowboy
opinion.
logic, sort of
totally.
right thing like that,
Totally.
where you're just right. I mean, it's a conspiracy theory that I think a lot of people subscribe to, but I'm not positive if it's true or not. I mean, before we had penicillin and all the other stuff,
No, you had polio, you had
right. There are still
pneumonia,
good
you had a
doctors
lot
out
of
there that would give something away. You know what I mean? As far as that goes, I mean the polio virus and the penicillin were things that the guy said, this is too big for the world. This, I don't want the patent. This is free. So I don't know if that'll happen. I just don't want I'm fine if it does. I'm fine if it doesn't. I don't want the perception for other people to be that I'm spending my life looking for that. Like, that's not what I'm doing. Like,
No, you're living your life.
you live life. If you ever notice, I see parents that have children that are paralyzed or something like that, and they're living their life to try and find that cure for and maybe they should refocus their energy on living their life to make the quality of life that is out there right now better for that. I mean, everything that I do around my world, I love flat work when it comes to like concrete work, and I got the driveway put in last spring here, and it was gravel before that. Having asphalt and having concrete sidewalks and having ramps, and that's all awesome because I can go everywhere and do everything I want. We put the deck out that goes over the water. We put this other deck on the back over here. We set up a outside spot that's got a TV outside, so we can have movie night outside. Everything that I want to do. So we got a fire pit out there. I'm like, hey boys, instead of going camping, which we do go camping, I go, we could just, crash out outside here, and
That's awesome.
It'd be awesome. So, because traveling, I don't know how you are with it. I've had to do it for wrestling. I've done it on a couple of vacations just for like, with a girl, just to go to Reno, went to Memphis, went to Lake Tahoe, stuff like that. Flying's a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, we've been our vacations revolve around driving.
Yeah.
We've driven to Florida 7, 8 times, maybe more. We were all over North Carolina, Colorado, you name it. We'll drive there as a family.
Sure.
It's harder now. My older son's out of the house, got a great job. He's taken an awesome path as a parent you like to see. So now it's the 2 younger ones. But everything that we've done revolves around the kids. I coached for 22 years. Now, half of those years, I didn't coach my own kids. I just loved coaching. I loved sports. And that was my way of staying involved with it. And then as the kids got older, I did coach each one of them for a little bit of time. And you do live through your kids. I mean, as you well know, you do anything for them.
Absolutely.
The best thing we can do is create our lives around them. Well, we can, because they're going to grow up and they're going to be their own person.
Yeah, I don't, one of my least favorite cliches is that everything happens for a reason. I hear that and I want to punch him in the throat. Because that's nonsense, and it's nonsense. It's a perfectly fine thing to say to somebody who loses their job because they're going to get another job and everything's going to work out. But when there's people out there that, have a child that's got leukemia, don't say that shit because it's a stupid thing to say.
So does it bother you as a quad for somebody to say that?
Well, I don't want to. They think it's comforting, and it's not. It's not. That's not a thing. No matter what happened in my life, I would find a way. I'm that person, so I'd find that way around it. It doesn't matter what. If I would have got both legs chopped off, that would have been a far easier thing than what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I still would have found a way around that to live my normal life. So don't say that, because I know firsthand plenty of people that are in our situation that didn't go on. They shut down. They're living somewhere where they're just watching TV all day long and not doing anything. They stayed living with their parents like they were a mentally retarded kid or something like that. And it's like, hey, you're not. You can, go do. Now, that's their choice to do. But saying everything happened for a reason it's not a comforting thing. It's not and there are 6 million Jews that died in the Holocaust that would argue that one. There's a little 11-year-old girl that got kidnapped when she was 8 and tied to a bed in a shed somewhere. Some guys come out there and molested her every day. Everything didn't happen for a reason. So that's a nonsense thing to say. Now, can I glean things that are good because of, I want to say because, things that I made lemonade out of lemons with in my situation? Yes. I worked at one time 84 hours a week. We worked 6 12s and 1 10. No days off. We were killing it at work. I know that I would have kept up those sort of schedules for as long as I could, neglecting my kids and my family because I was chasing the dollar. And hey, when I saw that tax return at the end of the year, I felt good about what I was doing. But you don't need $200,000 to put shoes on someone's feet or put a roof over their head. I would have made those excuses. And when I became paralyzed, I looked at other things like, okay, this is a challenge. With these hands like spatulas, I'm going to teach my kids how to tie their shoes. So go, figure that out. Teach them how to tie their shoes. And I did. Being a guy in a wheelchair, I taught all 3 of my kids how to ride a 2-wheel bike. People look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no. It just takes stopping for a second and thinking about how am I going to do this without being able to run behind them with my hand on their ass.
I totally agree. So I have coached football for years, and the position that I've coached longer than anything else is quarterbacks.
Okay.
So imagine a guy in a wheelchair trying to teach somebody
how to throw a ball.
Not just throw a ball.
Being a quad too, because I can't throw shit.
No, not just throw a ball, but footwork is so key to being a quarterback.
Sure.
Using your hips to throw the ball, making sure you're squared up. Same thing with basketball. And I became a way better coach because I had to learn to get the people I was coaching to understand verbally how to do things.
Right.
And once they understood the why,
Boy,
so I just didn't. I didn't tell you
it's crazy.
just like a lot of dads do, just throw it over the plate. No, I just can't tell you to throw the ball 50 yards. If I want to explain the reason that you have to plant your feet a certain way, the reason you have to bring the ball back and you can't sidearm it. And the reason you have to come over your ear and the reason that your hips have got to be turning because that's where you get your power. I mean, once you got done explaining it, lights went on in kids that I think a lot of people made assumptions that they wouldn't get the mechanics. But as you know, with probably your wrestling background, mechanics is everything.
Right. So I coach wrestling, and I've coached wrestling for 8 years, and I don't coach my kids. I coached one season where I coached my kids, and it was their 8th grade year because it was the last year they're going to be in the youth stuff. Now, there's 2 different kinds of coaching in wrestling. One is coaching in the room where we're teaching them how to do something, and the other one is mat side coaching, right? So, you know, you're sitting the 2 coaches in the corner, and you're hollering at the kid this and that and everything else. I'm better in the room than I am mat side, just because my projection of my voice is not as great as it would be if I could use my full diaphragm power, which I don't have. Also, I think it forced me to be a better teacher. So a wrestler has to be able to take a technique that he learned in the room and then use it on the mat. And he's going to have to, all the wrestling coaches have this thing where they want to get right down there and grab the kid and move his hand and put it over here and everything like that. I'm like, listen, first off, I can't do that. Secondly, can you do that in a match? No.
That's got to be instinctual.
It's got to be instinctual. And it's also going to be a verbal command that I'm going to holler and he's going to do. So if you don't understand what I'm telling you to grab his wrist, then me putting your hand on it's not going to help you understand that. So, you know, in wrestling, you need to take verbal commands, and in the room with me, you need to take verbal commands. I need to explain it to you this way. And then my thing was similar to what you said. I was coached to an objective. So I make sure that the guy understands, listen, you're putting your arm here because he's going to do this, and then you're fooling him into it, and the light comes on. I'm like, oh, I get it now. So like the more that you can explain to them exactly what they're doing, like what's the objective to what I'm doing?
The why.
The why.
Once you explain that, it's amazing. I don't care if the kid's 12 years old. The light will go on.
I think a lot of coaches that maybe aren't in our situation, they want to do it by mimic. They want to show them a display of it, like it looks like this, and then it's amazing to take, if you take 2 coaches that have wrestled for a bunch of years and you do a double leg takedown, you do it 5 times in front of the kids, and then you send all the kids out to do it, it looks totally different when they do it. It's a mess because you didn't break it down into every little, I always say it's the assignment that you got with the make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, where you're going to take the lid off of the jar of peanut butter, get the knife, put peanut butter on the knife. You know, like you got to explain.
No, you got to break it down into bite-sized pieces that are understandable, right. And it can be done for anything.
Sure.
I mean, I have 2 kids that played in high school and AAU basketball. I trained and coached them most of their skills.
Right.
Now, they were at camps, of course, and they did their summer camp thing, but the time we spent at a park just going over meticulously, because it would drive them nuts. Because, you know, what do you do when you throw, what does a kid want to do when you throw them a ball? They want to go and shoot a 3-pointer and stand out there and just launch the ball, never knowing why they're not doing what they need to do right.
Sure.
It's same thing with free throws. I mean, we worked ad nauseum at free throws. Why? Because it's crazy important when you look at games won and lost and how many are won and lost by poor free throws. And the things you can control and teach are amazing if you just take the time. That might be an advantage to being in the chair. I've spent so much time watching, reading, learning. I just didn't go. I wasn't a quarterback. I wasn't I wasn't even a great athlete. Good at best, and yet I have 3 kids that surpassed me in what they could do tremendously.
Yeah. And I think some of that is, for my guys, I think it's opportunity. I haven't run across a wrestler yet that didn't have an immense parental support system that was really, and when I say parental support, I've talked about this a bunch on the podcast, I've had coaches on the podcast, I do not mean you screaming at the sidelines. That's not support. I know little Johnny can hear you out there screaming, "Go Johnny." I don't know what that's for. It's nothing. In fact, I'm pretty sure most kids are mortified by that situation, so don't do it. But it's really the wallet, it's the time, it's the driving, it's the going places.
As you all know, they're family obligations. You know, if one kid does something, that's a family obligation.
Sure.
if you're doing it right. Because it
everyone's
just,
going.
we dragged our youngest one to all of my older son's games and to my daughter's games and whatnot, and that becomes a family obligation.
Right.
And we made family time of it. If she had a tournament up in Wisconsin, we'd run out till we'd enjoy it and try to make it. This is what family does, right?
Right.
You spend time together. You support each other.
Sure.
You go through the good times together.
Right.
You go through the bad times together.
Right.
And those are lessons they don't get any other way.
No.
It's not about money.
Right. Now,
It's not
did
about-
your kids learn any lessons from, like, I still find it, my sons know me as dad, and I've always been in a wheelchair as far as they're concerned. They were a year and a half old when I broke my neck, so they don't know me any differently. There's times where I have to say, hey, you understand that to get you to this tournament, I have to get up at 4 a.m. this morning because I have to shower and do everything I have to do before I even wake your butt up to get in the car at 6 a.m. to go. And then when I get them in the car, they go to sleep, and then I'm up then. So, and then, so with the wheelchair thing, for me, at least, and like I said, I don't ever want to speak for anyone else. If I'm up I sleep about 6 hours a night. That's generally all I need. But I cannot be up for 18 hours and down for 6 because my feet swell up pretty bad. And I don't wear like Ted hose or anything like that. I just wear regular clothes. So, at some point I got to get my feet up in the air just because this is not going to work out. Like if I had a whole weekend of just 6 hours down,
Sure.
I'd be a mess. But, kids don't seem to get it. They're oblivious of stuff, especially when they get used to things.
Well, I'll tell you because I have a 25-year-old and my daughter's 19 and my son's 17. Your boys being seniors, like my son, they're at that age where they don't, you won't see the appreciation until they're 23 to 25. Because my older son now, I never thought he'd be as appreciative as he is.
Yeah.
And the stuff that comes out of his mouth, we look at each other and go, you just said what? Like, that came out of your mouth?
Yeah.
Or he'll correct the other two and look, and I'm staring at him going, I don't know you. Like, where were you 5 years ago when you were 17?
Right.
And it'll come, and man, they'll get it, and it is just it's amazing.
Oh, I'm sure it's a terrific. My one boy got interviewed when he was, I think, a freshman or a sophomore by the newspaper. They did 10 questions with Peyton Geigner, and the 10 questions were, I can't remember exactly what they were, but like 3 of them in there were like very flattering towards me. They were like, my dad taught me everything I know. My dad's my inspiration, this kind of thing. And I was like, holy cow, I got it. Choking back the tears. And I looked at him and I go, hey, all the mornings I took you, everything I did for you, we're even. We're totally even.
No, you're not even yet, but you'll get there. Trust me.
I'm just saying, like,
no,
wow.
I know.
I was not expecting that out of a 16-year-old kid. You know what I mean? So, happy to see it. I really, I've gotten so much enjoyment out of doing things. I would say my sons are with just a little bit of me watching them. They're pretty much carpenters. Everything that's done in here, this place was gutted. They did all the work inside here. I mean, the fish tank, everything that's built, they did everything. All the flooring, everything that was done, they did it.
See, I grew up in the trades too.
Okay.
So I never would have went to college if I didn't get hurt.
True,
So,
trades guy, right?
oh, definitely. I mean, all my dad's friends were pipe fitters and electricians and tile guys and whatnot. So
Right.
I was an average student. I mean, if it wasn't for guys like me, there'd be no upper class.
Right.
And I wasn't the sharpest tool by any stretch. And then when I got hurt, I mean, obviously being a pipe fitter wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, I'm first generation college. We had to take a different path.
Well, yeah, right. You had to use your. So my business was, I was a general contractor, and I was a guy that worked, with my guys. I had a tool belt on every day. Now I had responsibilities that my guys didn't have as far as sales and contracts and prints and everything else that I had to do. So there were times where I'm like, hey, I need like 2 hours. I got to write these estimates. I got to get in the truck. And I'd sit in the truck and be writing out whatever I'm writing out while they're doing what they're doing. But I could always look at my job and be like, all right, this job, we're running behind. I've got all this workbooked. I would throw my body into the job and get further ahead. And then I could go back to my paperwork or do whatever I had to do. So, the day that I broke my neck, I actually had 2 sets of prints that I had to figure out and an estimate sitting in my truck. And I was like, all right, can I get up there on scaffold and get them further ahead this morning, like work until like 11 o'clock, and then I'll go take care of this, or I'll just go right now and take care of this. And I was really behind the paperwork, and I decided to get on the scaffold. I wanted to get this job done so I could get to the next job, chasing the almighty dollar again. And I was probably up there 30 minutes, and the scaffolding collapsed. It threw me up in the air, and then I dove into the ground. So I broke my neck, and I mean, I knew that I broke it well. Like I was looking at my body in a way that I'd never seen my body before. Like my head was cocked back,
Wow.
and I was wide awake. I didn't think I was going to make it because all of a sudden my diaphragm wasn't working anymore. It was hard to breathe. It was real hard to breathe. And then, I was taken to the hospital, and I was really cool with like, listen, if this is where it ends, I was 30 years old, then this is where it ends. This is not what I wanted, but this is how it goes. Like I was not like, I don't even today, like my sons and I have talks about death and stuff, and I'm like, it's part of life. So when it happens, it happens. I go, we need to do everything that we can with the time that you have, because you're going to leave a legacy. You're going to leave something behind. There's going to be people that talk about you after you're gone. And what you do in this period here, it's like that whole thing with the tombstone. It's the dash that matters, right? It's the part in between.
Between the first date and the last date.
Right.
What to do.
So, and I'm not a religious guy. I'm agnostic. I don't tell you that there is no God, but I don't have one. And I mean, I'm educated in it. I took 4 years of a study on like theology or, Christianity, religion, where I had homework and everything else. Like I know my scripture. I just never found anything there that showed me that there was something that was really, like, I don't think there's an invisible man in the sky sort of thing watching me.
No, he's above the sky. He's not in the sky. He's above the sky. And unlike you, I'm very faith-driven.
Right.
I get that from my mom, although, and it started, we went to Catholic grammar school.
Sure.
So back in the late 60s, early 70s, you were taught by nuns. And then I went to an all-Catholic high school, St. Lawrence, and had an awesome 4 years. And you were taught by the Christian Brothers of Ireland. And that's not where your faith comes from. Your faith, and I see a lot of people out here in the suburbs that they think their kids are better because they went to a Catholic school. If that stuff doesn't happen at home,
oh, sure.
Going
Yeah,
to
I grew
Catholic
up with
school
it.
doesn't make you any better.
Right. My dad was a altar boy, and we grew up
Like you
Catholic
said, Leo.
religion.
He went to
Went to Leo, all that stuff. I grew up with it. My my grandmother was sitting there, she'd be mortified that I'm not. My mother is very religious right now. I don't know, like the time I've had to like critically think about it, it's hard for me to, some of the stuff that's in there, especially the dogma of it, just doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, there's a God out there that doesn't care about starving children, but he cares who I bump uglies with. This is what he's
So
talking about.
why is it God that doesn't care? If there's a God, there's obviously a counterpart to God.
No, I'm just saying
So why
that-
does everybody blame what's bad? Kobe's plane crashing, kids starving, stuff like that. Why? Maybe it's not God doing that.
Oh no, I understand that right from the classes that I took and everything else. That in the book, like we're supposed to care about, or now we're supposed to care about what's going on the planet right now is not under his control. It's under the,
Well, he gave us free will, and that's where we fall short. Is we can't,
Right.
we could never anybody on earth will ever live up to the standard, following the 10 Commandments that he set.
Sure.
We just won't because we were given free will.
Yeah, honestly, I think I had this talk with Bill Mosier too, and I'm trying to get his Episcopalian priest on the podcast to talk about religion, and I'm like, I would never want to take that away. Like, I'm never going to argue that I'm not atheist, so I'm not going to argue that there isn't. And like my mom, it's the cornerstone of her life. Her friends are there. Like, it's what, and it makes her happy. So like, by all means, do it. I personally believe it's fairy tales that you're believing in. It's nonsense. There is no scientific evidence that ever said there was a worldwide flood. That's not and then you get some of the things that turn me off about Christianity are Christians. They bother me. It's the museum in Missouri with the Ark. You know, in that museum, there's a dude riding a Triceratops or a Triceratops because, you know, you're a guy of faith. If you read Genesis, the animals were created after Adam, and he named them all.
Right.
So there are no animals like the way that it was created in the 6 days and the seventh day of rest. All dinosaurs and everything in the fossil record had to exist at the same time if you take a literal, you know, interpretation of the Bible. So we have scientific fact that proves that that's not how it was. We're millions of years apart from dinosaurs. We did not coexist with dinosaurs. Now, if you believe that, that's fine. You know, I wouldn't argue that. But if you want to actually talk about what's factual, and nowadays, that's one of the things that actually kind of drives me nuts about the world. We live in a world where everybody says things that, like, if I say humans didn't exist with dinosaurs, the guy look at me and go, were you there? Like, no, I don't have to be there for that. We have ways of, I mean, and then you get Christians that say stuff like, well, how can you depend on the way that we date things? We only have one way, carbon dating. I'm like, well, that's not true. We have 3 ways. We have carbon dating. We have the nuclear life of a stone, which is half-lifed over a certain amount of time. And then we also have, I don't remember what the third way is, but there's 3 ways to date something. And when you do it 3 ways and you find out it's the same for all 3, then you know it's that old. So we know that dinosaurs and man we know factually that dinosaurs and men did not live together. So why is there a place down there in Missouri where they got an ark and they're talking about like T-Rexes on
Why?
the ark?
Because somebody had, their faith is stronger than their doubt, and they wanted to build that.
Right.
I'm guessing.
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
for me, right, I don't
you
want to
know,
live like that. I know. I have a thing where I want to live. I want the advancement of the human race, and I want, if we're all a bunch of snake charmers in my mind, believing in nonsense like that, because that's nonsense. It's not factual science that says that happened. So
There's a lot of facts about Jesus actually being living and things that happened that are backed up by numerous written, I'll call them scrolls, by numerous different religious backgrounds. But I'm not going to get into religious argument. I agree with you because I would never force my faith on anybody. I'm Irish.
Right.
I'm Irish Catholic.
I would never force. I would never try and pry anyone's faith away from them.
No, I you know, if you're an atheist, if you're agnostic, that's great. I'm not here to do that. That's not what.
Right.
That's not what's here. If my faith helps me get through bad times, giddy up. If going to work out helps you get through bad times,
right. So there's where
it.
right. So there's where I find myself in a quagmire when somebody loses a loved one. I find that a time where they really need to believe that that loved one goes on to something else or move, like there's a heaven and all that. My problem is I love to have, I do the podcast because I really like to have conversations. And even conversations like this, when I gravitate towards conversations that I don't agree with the person more than conversations that agreeing is boring. It's like I'm not going to learn anything if we both are like, yeah, exactly, right, exactly. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So like I move towards, like, if I'm out somewhere and I know a guy got a political view that's not mine, then we're gonna have a talk because I want to talk about how'd you get here, like, because the other problem with the world nowadays is you have news that if you watch one set of news and you watch another set of news, you could believe totally different things.
We're so misinformed, it's not even funny.
But it's justified that you believe the thing you believe because all day long you listen to this and all day long he listened to that. And I think that's by design. They'd like to pit people against people so that you don't, do you need something?
Totally. No, I'm good.
Okay. What can I?
The bathroom.
Oh, right down this hall and then make the first left. So I, for me, I think a lot of people, I have one of my best friends growing up. I absolutely love the guy. If he needed anything, if he needed a place to live, he could live here. We don't get along on social media because our political views are different, and he can't separate his emotions from that situation. I absolutely can. Some of my bestest friends have a different political view than I do. And I mean, I've noticed on social media, I think you're a bit of a Trump fanatic.
No.
No.
No, I'm a conservative.
Oh, so you hate Trump?
No, I don't hate him. I think he's a meathead.
Okay.
I mean, he's
No, people that I know that are real conservatives don't like Trump at all.
Yeah,
because he's not a conservative.
He's a meathead. He is not your most. He is not the picture of what you would like as a president in a perfect world, by any stretch.
Not even in a,
But I believe he cares about this country more than our last president did, and more than anybody else running at the time. We just went through the tallest midget presidential race. It was Hillary or him,
right?
And that was like the tallest midget.
Yes, it was
like the worst of two evils.
Right,
Which one do you want?
Which
so that's the way I view Trump. I
hated that argument. I hated that. I hated it from the beginning time when I was voting. Like when Clinton was running, that was when I first started voting. I'm 48 now, and I hated that logic as to I got to vote for the lesser of two. Why the fuck do I do that?
I agree.
We've settled 300 million fucking people. How come I can't?
Because we've settled. We've settled and allowed this.
Yeah.
So a lot of my stuff, you'll see, yes, I support a lot of what Trump does. Not because I think he's awesome. He's a meathead. Here I'm saying it. Mm-hmm. He is a genuine meathead. But who did we have at the time?
Right.
I mean, honestly, it was the tallest midget contest.
Right. And
I'll subscribe that he was the best person to get us out of future horrific things that are going to happen in this country still. He's our best.
So like wars, you're saying? Because I believe. Oh, okay.
Now, wars are going to be around forever. That is a financial thing. They've been around since our country had started, right?
Right. I believe that Hillary Clinton was far more a hawk than Trump was, as far as it goes. And the rhetoric. My problem with I am absolutely not I'm not a Trump hater, but I'm absolutely not a fan in any way, shape, or form. And I don't like him from the beginning to the end. Like, I don't like the rich kid. I don't like the person that's never been given anything. I spent a good portion of my adolescence and then into my 20s pretty much looking at a guy to see, like I played some poker, but I boxed and I fought a lot. And I'd look at him and be like, nah, you ain't that guy. And we'll go out in the parking lot and find out, but I'm going to tell you ain't that guy. We're going to go figure that out. But Trump's not the guy. Like, he puts on the tough guy persona. He's the rich kid that wouldn't fight his own battle. If it came to a fisticuffs, he's not. That's not him. That's not his thing.
We're making assumptions. So this one
I can make an assumption, a pretty good educated guess on a guy.
So this is what's interesting. And maybe you agree, maybe not. Nobody before Trump won the election, nobody took him serious and thought he would win. And there were not the kind of haters out there. All of a sudden he wins. Now all of a sudden you've got all these Trump haters. And I just find that interesting that you didn't care about his dealings 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and you're
try and justify some of it though. Like if you're a woman, I don't get the woman that supports him because he's got a track record of. If you listen to his Howard Stern interviews, they were about women. They're the most loathsome. He's a terrible human being. I'm sorry. I mean, he says things about women that is like unbelievably bad.
Have you ever said anything that you're not proud of?
Never on a. Yes, I have.
Okay,
sure.
And so have I. We all.
But wait. But there's levels to this thing. I would never say what he said on a radio show that millions of people are listening to, first off, and I'm not planning on ever running for public office. And secondly, no, even the things that he said, for me, generally, what people say in public is a filtered version of what they say in private.
I agree.
If that's the case with this man, I don't want to hear what he said in private because he said things like he goes behind the scenes in the dressing room for the women getting dressed, and I can because I run the pageant, stuff like this.
But don't you think some of that is bravado and him beating his chest years before he ever thought about running for office? I mean, let's keep that in context. We're talking about that like it just happened the month before or during his presidency or during while he was running. When you look at that, there are things I'd be ashamed of for my mom and dad to hear that I've said.
Oh God! Well, no. I grew up with a Marine as a father.
Okay,
the fuck I wanted to say.
I couldn't. I mean, in my parents,
my dad was one of those guys that's like, I don't believe in bad words. There's no fucking thing as such thing as that. Like,
and I didn't hear my dad use the F-bomb until I was in my 30s.
Right.
So I mean, my parents just didn't.
Yeah. So different.
They didn't. And whatnot. So I think
But the bravado thing that you were saying,
Yeah.
that's part of what makes me draw the conclusion that you're full of shit. You're a bluff. You're not the guy that you say you are. Because I don't need bravado. I was the guy that walked around not saying fucking shit, but cross me and you're gonna get knuckles is what's gonna happen.
You don't, and I might not need the bravado shit, but this country does. And I think we were at a point where this country needed it because we had been brought down to a place of bowing down to all these countries. And look what Trump did with North Korea. We had conversations with North Korea that no other president could even come close to. Why do women love them? There are more women now in high positions in government than ever before. Trump's done that. Now you could say,
the North Korea thing, nothing's gotten done though.
but at least we couldn't even talk to them. Now at least there's discussions happening. It's a step in the right direction. And trust me, I'll say it again. He is a solid 100% meathead. But he is our meathead right now.
Yeah.
And we gotta support that until somebody better comes along. And right now, all I see are more midgets. And I don't know if there's anybody sticking out.
I have a guy that I like on the other side now. And I held my nose and voted for Clinton because I just looked at someone with, if I wanted plumbing work done, I just don't hire a guy who saw it on TV sort of thing and like see if he can do it. And then, like I said, we're watching probably two different newses too. I don't see a guy now that's competent. I don't see a guy that's stable. I see a guy that's an immature child on there throwing insults at people constantly. And I don't know how productive that is. And I also see this this impeachment thing that's going on as, they say things like it's not a bipartisan impeachment, but I look at it like it's not a bipartisan impeachment because you've got our entire Republican Party, because he's got a 90% approval rating with the Republican Party, they're walking in lockstep with a guy who did the wrong thing. They're not even allowed to say what the truth is. And the truth is, listen, if you want to defend what he did by saying what he did wasn't right, but it doesn't rise to the level of impeachment, I get that. I can totally agree with that statement. Saying things like Trump says it's a perfect phone call. Obviously was not a perfect phone call. You released what we're all for some reason calling a transcript. It's not a transcript. It's a cherry-picked summary, not a transcript. A transcript would be a word for word, verbatim for the conversation. That's not what it was. You still released something to the public that said, Mr. President, we're ready to buy more Javelin missiles. I'm going to need you to do me a favor, though. That's not a perfect phone call by any stretch of the imagination. But the Republican Party can't say that it wasn't a perfect phone call because they'll be saying the emperor's not wearing any clothes. And that's really not how our republic should work. It shouldn't be this way. And if you were to balance out what the ironic thing that's going on with this impeachment is, you have Ken Starr on the news today standing up in the Senate doing his whole spiel today on why this president should not be impeached, when this is the exact same man who said that Clinton should be impeached for lying about a blowjob. Now, one thing has got some national security issues. The other one, lying about a blowjob, is only going to piss his wife off. I do not give a shit whether Bill Clinton lied about a blowjob or not. I just don't. It doesn't matter to my life. It's not going to change anything. But if the leader of Ukraine can blackmail my president, it does matter to all of us.
You're making a lot of assumptions that...
I don't think I'm making one assumption.
Well, then he's blackmailing
No,
Ukraine,
but it's a possibility. He could be blackmailed because this is not a correct phone call, right? You can't say you got to do me a favor, though. You can't say that to another leader. And the favor can't be... I would say no matter what part of the spectrum you're from, what we're all interested in is the sovereignty of having actual elections, right? I want to have an election where my vote matters.
It doesn't anymore.
Right, that's a problem.
It doesn't. And whether you like them or not, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to not like them either. What I want to do is deal with facts, not emotions. I don't want to have a tribe that I belong to. What?
Sorry.
What happened?
Nothing.
Oh.
No, but unfortunately, as we talked earlier, we don't even know if the facts we can debate are true. I mean, that's how frightening our media is.
The only thing I gave you was what he released. This is what he released, and this is what he's admitted to in the situation. So, and even with just that, and then today Michael Bolton's thing came out that said that he personally told Michael Bolton that this was tied. It was a quid pro quo. That there were the aide and the White House meeting were tied to Zelensky coming out and saying they're going to start an investigation into Joe Biden. Now, last I checked, I'm no Joe Biden fan. I am not. But last I checked, Joe Biden's not public enemy number one.
Not yet. They'd like to make him public enemy.
I understand that, but I mean, he's not a detriment to the country as far as what I'm saying is, if you were to look the whole world over for corrupt, the thing that I like to point at is like, okay, here's a guy who is, the fact is, right? It's not fake news. It's not something that can be debated. It's finished in court already. He was ordered to pay $2 million back to a charity that he defrauded, and the charity was shut down. That took away from veterans and disabled people and all this other stuff that this charity did. So this guy's corrupt in that manner. And then he's also the runner of a fraudulent university that was shut down. And you're telling me that this guy's main goal was corruption in another country? I can't buy it. I'm not buying it. This is a corrupt person to begin with. I think when he heard corruption, he thought maybe I'd get something from a country that's got corruption, and then that's where you'd go.
And if it was that cut and dry, he'd be out of office already.
Well, no, because the Republicans walk lockstep and then make sure that he's not.
No different
And
than
I don't want him removed at all. I've said this a million times.
Yeah.
If it came down to it, now, did I think he should be impeached for what he did? Yeah, that's not, all impeachment is a slap on the wrist.
Right,
So
exactly.
should he be slapped on the wrist if we're going to allow every president from now on to use the power of his office to help his election? How's that a fair election?
Well, how's it fair? How is it fair? It's same thing Obama did. Same thing. You don't think that they use their position
Well,
to
now
gain?
you're assuming. But all I'm saying is we have a thing that guy released saying he did this. Mm-hmm. We don't have that from the other guy, so I'm not going to assume that that's what happened.
So you don't think that presidents who served 2 terms, that second term they got in there, and used any of their?
Well, no. I think it's always easier for them to get the second term because name recognition, right? And if things are going well economically, he's probably going to get reelected, sort of thing. So I think the scales are already tipped in the incumbent's favor. We see that in Congress, right? The guy stays there for 40 years and he shouldn't be.
Okay, what's your opinion on term limits?
Well, my opinion on term limits, I've talked about this on the podcast, and people don't seem to understand this. Our Constitution, our framers framed it that way for a reason, because we have co-equal branches of government, right? So they're trying to make a senator equal to the president. So he's the check and balance in the executive branch, right? Is the senator. So they don't give him term limits because then he could be around for 20 years and span the life of 3 presidencies. So I agree that that's a mistake that the framers made, but that was by design, right? So when people want to hold up the Constitution and be originalist, if you're an originalist, then you're supposed to be sticking with the original thoughts.
So then I'm assuming based on that you're okay with people having ARs and weapons, since in the Constitution our Second Amendment said we have the right to bear arms.
Okay, yeah, I had a whole gun podcast too. I'm a gun
I don't
guy.
want to get into
I
that.
got what's
Yes.
it?
No, we could go on forever.
No,
Politics,
right. And honestly, I think that when people from, and I like this and stuff on the podcast, if people from different ideologies can have a talk and then resume another conversation and talk just civilly, that's what we need to do. Because too many people sit in their bubble, watch Fox News, watch MSNBC all day long, hate the other guy, shake their fist at him, all this other stuff, and they never interact with them and then see that it's... I see people, and it's disturbing to me when I see Trump supporters wearing shirts that say, I'd rather be with the Russians than the Democrats. Wait a minute now. That's half of the country. You're talking about civil war. You're talking about... And you can't have any frame of mind that says the Russians aren't our friends. They're not.
No,
they're our
never
competitors.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're on this planet competing for resources and everything else. There's one thing that's true. That's our competitor. China is our competitor. They are not our friends. So, but I think our friends would like us. Russia would love for us to fight like that.
You're talking about a handful of meatheads that wear
I know,
stupid stuff. It was like
still disturbing to see that. Like, I'm like, hey, what are you doing?
We got meatheads walking into school shooting kids. I mean, the whole country's gotten disturbing.
So, but
in so many
the
different
AR thing,
ways.
the AR thing. I had a woman on that's a big proponent of the AR. That was what the conversation was about. And she took an angle that was she was going to justify the AR by she hunts with it. And I was like, oh, this is hurting my head. I grew up in a hunting culture.
You don't hunt with an AR. You don't get an AR to hunt with.
She
I'm sorry.
does. And she does it. And
Maybe she's done it, but the average,
no, you don't need
hunted
it.
my whole life. You
Right. No, it's not a necessity.
No,
Yeah, and I
it's
told her,
not.
listen, if you need to hunt with something that's got a 30-round clip, you're very bad at hunting.
You better, yeah, you might want to work on your aim.
Right.
I'm not worried about an AR.
So now it's a free country. I'm a libertarian in some aspects. It's a free country. I think that you should be able to have that AR. I think that we should do things. My problem always lies with if there's someone standing in front of me that's holding a 6-year-old that just got shot in a school shooting, and I say nothing we could do about. I can't do that because if I lost one of my kids, that'd be the end for me. Me and you were both through something catastrophic, and I can't even. If I was to put it on a scale, losing my child would be way beyond any of this.
I agree with you.
Right.
I mean, I'd rather be a quad than lose my kids.
Yes,
And this is a
absolutely.
horrendous lifestyle.
Absolutely.
This is every day for us is a blood war.
It is, and we'll get back to let's jump off the politics thing. But I want people to understand, and I get a lot of. I have a pretty good amount of viewers that are regular viewers, and I think they're getting it. I can have completely different political view than someone else and get along with them swimmingly. Like have day drinking all day long and have a
But
blast.
see, you've learned to agree to disagree. And I grew up
I don't
that
even know if
way
I've
too.
done that. I've learned to respect someone else's feelings on the matter and then try and derive something from what they're saying that I can maybe glean something and
Totally.
change how I feel about
You
it.
learn something from everybody.
Right.
You
I
can learn
try
something
to.
from everybody if you're choosing to. And like you said, that's the difference between listening, which we're horrible at, listening to respond,
Right.
or listening to
Right.
get the message.
Right.
You listen to get the message,
Sure.
so that maybe you pull tidbits out of there that make you more aware, more educated.
Sure.
People who are listening to respond, they're just dying to get that next mouthpiece
They're holding their
out.
breath until they can talk next. Right. So now we'll jump back onto the being a quadriplegic stuff. But I like for people to see people have an interaction that's not insane. And if you look at any painting of the framers, they were always in the midst of a debate, but they still all coexisted. They created the country. It worked out fine. This is part of the thing. I get a little bit I won't say offended, but like I don't know, side-eyeing people when I see them on social media. And the minute someone disagrees with them, they block them. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you acting like that's really that person? And I know people that like I've known my entire life. We were great friends growing up. There was no political talk when you're 17 years old.
No.
And then they find out that, and then all of a sudden that person's a bad person. I'm like, oh my God, you got to stop with that.
Exactly.
But all right, so back to the paralyzed thing. I don't know how you are, and I am, but for me, I absolutely am not looking for any sympathy from anybody. But one of the things that goes on with me is I'm in pain all the time. I have what I would equate to like diabetic nerve pain. So like right across my line where I'm injured, my hands feel like they're asleep all the time. Like it feels like someone kicked me in the asleep foot all the time. It's become my normal, so it doesn't bother me the same as it did when it first did. My butt, because I'm sitting on it constantly, if you're in the movie theater for a 2-hour movie and your ass is killing you, this how my ass feels all day, pretty much all the time.
So I'll play. If you're a complete at the nipple level, basically
Yep,
chest
pretty
level.
much, yep.
How do you? So you don't think it's a phantom pain in your butt?
I don't know. It gets worse as the day goes on, and then if I have weird things that I can feel like I said, everyone that's paralyzed is different, and that's why when I have somebody on, if I have an upset stomach, I absolutely can feel that. Like that's inside, like for sure. If I go to the laundry room, grab out a hot load of laundry, and put it on my lap, my legs feel warm and I can feel it.
Wow.
And it's weird.
Yeah, no,
I can
it
feel
is.
it.
Or it tells you how powerful the mind can be too.
Maybe, I don't know, but I feel
And
like a sense of warmth on there. If I get a roast out of the freezer and put it on my lap, my legs, I can feel the cold sort of thing there.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And you're right, though. You could line up 100 C5, 6 quads. Every one is going to be different. in some way.
Right, different way. There's a certain, and I get sidetracked on the politics thing like forever, but there is a ton. The thing I've had people say to me, well, so what? Now you got to do everything sitting down. I'm like, well,
No, it's not that simple.
It's not that
even
simple.
close.
Like, and then like I try and get people to understand. I really don't live that. Like I just do my life, doing my life. But the thing that sometimes bothers me is the people that are closest to me deal with me doing my life so much that they get used to the fact that I can take care of it, and they don't have any appreciation for the fact that this is much harder than what you're doing. Like when I get dressed in the morning, I'm by myself. I get dressed on my own. I am laying out. So my situation is I get up, get into a chair that goes in the shower. I go do the bowel program, get in the shower, get out of there, shave, brush my teeth, put on some deodorant, Q-tips in the ears, and I head to the bed. And I get on the bed. So I got the board with the slidey. I don't know if you got like a it's like a piece of like
plastic
Micron or whatever.
Yeah.
So and it slides my naked ass across the board. I'm onto the bed, and now I'm a naked guy on the bed. I've got my dresser there. I get my clothes out. I wear suspenders because I don't like my pants to fall down. But so all this dressing stuff goes on. I'm pretty much laying on my back, and I roll side to side when I pull up the pants. Pull up the pants, pull up the pants, pull up the pants. Now, if I'm in a hurry, I can, in the wintertime, and wintertime is way different because I got a sweater on, I got a long underwear shirt, sometimes I got long underwear pants. If it's really cold outside, I'm going to spend any time outside. I got pants, I got socks, I got a pair of boots on. So, like, that's my getting dressed. In the summertime, I'm a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals. No underwear. Ladies, never any underwear. So, that's much easier to get
Well,
dressed.
all I can say is God bless, because you're way more independent than I am.
Okay.
By far.
Yeah, but you being paralyzed higher makes a big difference.
Yeah, I understand that to some degree, but you're way more independent than I am, and I don't think anybody could even imagine what it takes to do what you do. Because I was blessed. I lived at home until I got married, and my mom would help me get dressed. I'm not ashamed of it. It was what it was, because my path was different. I worked out as much as I could, and I went to college. So my schedule was get up at 6, get out of the house by 7. I'd be at school till 3 or 4, and then come home, do schoolwork, exercise, therapy, and start again.
Sure.
So I never had to be as independent as you, and I admire that. And God bless. I know you don't believe me to.
No,
because
I understand.
that's amazing, and people have no clue to a point of with the way you started this. People have told us you make it look easy.
No, I get that a lot.
Oh, I don't even recognize. I don't even realize you're in a wheelchair because you just come and go.
Right.
You come into work. You do.
Now, I get that from people who have someone in their life that's in a chair. Like I got another coach that I coach with that his brother-in-law is paralyzed, and he's like, "You do so much more than him." And I'm like, you know what? I go, everyone's got. This guy was a guy that was married when he got paralyzed. She stayed, so she did things for him. Now, if I want to go, I like what I like. And I like if I want to make good food, I'm going to cook good food myself, right? So, like I got a barbecue pit out there. I cook a roast. I cook fish. I mean, there's all kinds of meals that I cook my own pasta, my own sauce, all that other stuff. And I mean, like honestly, I feel like I got a workout in after I get done doing pasta.
Oh, you totally do.
Yeah, I mean, I
totally
cut all the onions, cut all the peppers, cut all the parsley. I did all that stuff today, and I made that. Now, when I make food, I do it in a way where I make 4 gallons of sauce. When I make sauce, so it's frozen, I just take it out and use it
That's
later.
we just made chili. Love
same.
chili, and same thing. We make it in a gigantic crock pot. And like you said, just taking the cans from the counter over to where the can opener is,
Right.
and getting those opened, I was winded.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I didn't do anything.
Right.
I mean, in life, when you look at life, wait, you open 12 cans.
Right, and everything that we do, I would equate it to the guy that's going to go run. So, like, most everything that I want anybody that's listening to this too, instead of feeling any pity or sorry, to be encouraged. Okay, listen, if you're able-bodied, you're not going to get any excuses around me, right? Like if you're like, hey, I always wanted to run a marathon, I didn't. I do 10 miles in this chair. This is not a sport chair or anything like that. I just go do 10 miles. Like, I don't give a shit if it takes 3 hours. But still, for me, the hardest part of doing that 10 miles is the first lap. That first, there's all that, like, I'm just going to, I'll stop at the little Cinnabon place and get that instead, hang out at the mall. But I don't. I go and I do 3 hours of running, is essentially when I do it. But so that that's the whole thing. Like, so every morning for me to get to work, to do everything that I do, and then the other thing that I had with my situation was I had no support. My ex-wife was in the breeze as soon as we came home. In fact, I got dropped off at the police station. We got into an argument. She's like, I don't want you around anymore. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And she pretty much got in the car, and we went to the Will County Police Station. I was fine with it. I didn't want to be around anymore either. Got out, and the cop's like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, well, he can't stay with me anymore, so now he's here. So I had to get a hold of my dad. That's the basement I was stuck into. And I went to the basement there for like 6 months.
Wow.
It was not a good situation. There's a thing. People are real bad at not seeing the forest for the trees sort of situation. I look at I've had 3 girlfriends since I got divorced from my ex-wife, and all 3 of them, if you took a step back and looked at what other people thought of that woman, they're like, wow, she's a saint because she deals with all this shit. And there is, no pun on words either, a ton of shit to fucking deal with. This whole life is a big pain in the ass. It is from the again, this is not me complaining. This is me just explaining.
No, but what people don't get is our bodies don't adjust to temperature. So when it's 90 out and everybody's running around and enjoying the sun and sitting in the backyard, if I go sit in that backyard after about 30 minutes, if I don't pour water on myself and drink
right.
mass amounts of liquid,
Yep.
I will end up with AD, autonomic dysreflexia, that will cause heat stroke.
Yep.
Our bodies don't adjust to the cold. So my legs could stay 10 degrees colder than most people could breathe all night because they don't adjust. And our circulation is terrible. That's just the beginning. That doesn't even include the fact that we have, probably half our lung capacity.
Yep.
We can't control our bowels. We can't control our bladder. That, like you said, they see the tip of the iceberg.
Right. This whole thing is a juggling act constantly. So for me, everything is so rigidly scheduled. I don't eat till noon, and then I eat until about 8 o'clock at night. So that's my window of eating, and I found out that works out pretty good for me. And my bowel program situation is every other day. I don't know how you run.
I do it 3 times a week.
Okay, I'm just every other day. So every other week it changes. If it's one week it's on Saturday, the next week it's on Sunday, sort of a thing. And I structure my food in the same way too. So like when I take my shower on that morning, have my bowel program and everything, when I get out of there, I'll come out, make myself 3 scrambled eggs, some bacon, and eat that. That's just fine. The next morning's breakfast is like mini wheats. It's something with a bunch of fiber because I need to push everything out the next day so that I'm clear, so I'm fine. Now, I have got it rigged in a way where I don't have that much trouble. Now, I got a buddy of mine who's quad also, and he is a sucker for like a Whopper with cheese. It's like, I don't eat any of that shit. Like, I'm not touching any of that. I eat super healthy, and I try and keep myself on a regular system, and it keeps me very, very regular. He has more problems in that situation than I do. But for me, it's like maybe 6-7 times a year that I've got some catastrophic situation that goes on. I'm like, oh, there's a mess. That's outside of if I decide to do something stupid, like stop at Portillo's
So food doesn't affect me. I can eat Portillo's and my bowel program is no different.
Oh, I can eat Portillo's. I just can't order
the
from
burger
Portillo's.
or the
My problem is when I order Portillo's, I buy 3 sandwiches and I eat way too much. Like that's
Well, yeah, that's and taking off weight, which you don't need to do, but that's been my struggle.
Actually, I'm trying
so,
trying to drop just a couple. I'd like to lose maybe like 10, 15 right now.
because I've definitely put some on through the years,
Oh,
and
God,
it is
it's so
strictly
hard.
eating
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I got a great cook over here, and I
There you
love
go.
cooking, and my kids all know how to use the grill. So like you, we'll grill anything from a pizza to a turkey. It doesn't matter. It's all
That's
good. But it's there's so many of these little difficulties behind, like you said, just the bowel incidents. I'm blessed. I probably only have a couple a year.
Yeah, right.
But I stay, like you said, we stay very rigid to a schedule.
Right. It probably took you, I mean, when I first started, it was a mess all the time.
Oh.
Like, it was, yeah. But I've gotten better at it, and my life is good.
Yeah.
Now, I have misconceptions. When I came out of the hospital and I was going to outpatient therapy to learn how to do stuff, first off, the therapist is someone who's giving therapy to everybody. They're not just giving therapy to a guy paralyzed like me. I had a situation where my blood pressure dropped, and I was gonna faint, right? I was gonna pass out, sort of a thing. And she goes, "Where's your catheter?" And I go, "In my bag." She goes, "No, the one you." She thought I was wearing a catheter on me.
So you don't wear an external catheter, you self-cath?
I self-cath, correct.
So I wore an external catheter for 35 years.
Okay.
It-
So I would explain that. So
Go ahead.
when I pretty much, if you found me laying on the ground somewhere and I was dead, you wouldn't know that I was a paralyzed guy because I don't have anything on me. I'm just a dude that's I don't I don't wear a diaper. I don't wear a catheter. None of that stuff. When I have to go to the bathroom, it's the commercials you just hear on the news, right, where the guy's selling catheters. It is a tube, like a 14-inch or 16-inch plastic tube that I feed up inside of myself. It goes into my bladder, and I empty my bladder that way. And then the tube's disposable. I throw it out. So, that's it for me to go to the bathroom. The thing is I need to have one of those on me, or I can't go to the bathroom, which is,
Right.
a thing you got to remember when you go pack for somewhere to go. Where a guy that wears an indwelling is what you're talking about, right?
No, I wore an external, which was basically like wearing a rubber. So I didn't have anything in me. It was an
okay.
external catheter.
Got
So it was
it.
like basically putting on a rubber that went to a tube that went to a bag. So
Got
I
it.
would
Okay.
just, when my bladder would get filled with void, and I just reach down and make sure, I had enough room, and then I'd empty that out. And then about 5 years ago, my bladder stopped working. So
Oh.
now it's self-cathing,
So, okay, all right.
like you.
All right.
Except my catheter's a lot longer. I'm not sure what that means.
No. So I've never even, I think I've seen what you're talking about that you had for 35 years. So that never made it a situation where you had to go to you just had to empty that out, then, right? Sort of thing.
So if I was at a bar, sometimes I just grab somebody's empty bottle, lean down, fill it up, put
Right.
it between my legs, go find a garbage can,
Yeah.
or a plant and a nice planter, and
There you go.
empty it in the plant.
Got it. Okay. And how is that with, I know a lot of guys that do the cathing thing. I don't have any trouble with it, but the bladder infections were terrible.
Not for the first 20 years. I was so active, and I being active was just amazing. I mean, it just how it helps you.
Now your bladder works, so didn't you feel like you were oh man, I gotta pee, or
No.
huh? Because I mean, for me, it's on time. No matter, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm drinking, for the afternoon, then I go more often than usual. But I get I don't
Chills, almost like goose.
sweaty. I don't sweat normally, but then I'll get I gotta hit the head.
Same thing with bound up. Like if I have
yeah,
eaten
yeah.
too much around the holidays,
Sure,
and my bowel program might be tomorrow, and I've eaten like a starving man on a Christmas ham for 2 days,
Sure.
I'll start to get sweaty, and I know that I probably need to do my bowel program.
Right.
And we've done it sometimes a day difference.
See, I got all the respect in the world for you. You guys that have been paralyzed first. I had a guy that I knew named Wally Ridgway, and Wally was 73 when he passed away, 73 or 74. He was injured when he was 20 in the military. He dove, they went AWOL off the base in Britain, and he dove in, and another guy was swimming up, and he hit him. And he said for the first 2 years he was in a bed because they didn't have wheelchairs for him that they could use and stuff like this. And there was no technology out there for the guy at all. I mean, at least the wheelchair technology has come a little bit further, right? I mean, at some point you were like in a big metal.
Oh, my first wheelchair was like an E&J chair that you'd get from the pharmacy. It was probably, I don't know if it was a
Right, weighed like
quickie
70 pounds
or
or
whatever.
some
It
shit.
was like 65 pounds,
Yeah.
60 pounds.
Right. Now they were like
And-
35.
Yeah. Now I'm in a quickie light. It's probably 30 something. What a difference. I mean,
Yeah,
so
right.
imagine pushing yourself wearing a backpack with 60 pounds on it.
Right,
And,
right.
and getting around every day.
Right. Now, I mean, you know, you said sort of like I'm thinner, but I'm heavier now than I was 10 years ago as far as that goes. And I mean, I hit the weights really good, but like this gut that like right here, I can't shake that. Like, I mean, I'd have to do something.
It's the quad gut. People ask about it.
I'd have to do something
all the time.
drastic to try and shave that off. And I'd probably look like a Auschwitz guy if I did.
And you still wouldn't, because you'd have, without the muscle,
Right,
there's
right.
still nothing
So
to hold
I'm
it
different.
in.
If I lay back, everything kind of like.
Oh, I look great laying down. I'm awesome laying down. I mean, I even look at myself occasionally, but yeah, sitting up, it all goes. And I put on, I mean, I need to drop 40 pounds. But
Right.
I've been blessed to carry it fairly decent because I still exercise. I do what you do. I don't go to the mall. I ride outside.
Yeah.
I love the elements. I love the nature paths.
Sure. I'll
Getting
be outside in the summer, in the spring, and the fall. But
Right. No, you have to. If you do not stay that active, you are just setting yourself up.
Right.
Okay, I'm 40 years in a wheelchair. I've never had a pressure sore.
Good. Me neither. Right. Well,
Why do you think?
I've never had one since I've been in the wheelchair. But before I was in the wheelchair, you see the back of my head?
Yeah.
That was a pressure sore, and that was pretty much a situation where my hospital situation was not good. My
And RIC?
RIC was perfect at Olympia Field Olympia Fields. Before that was bad. They put me on a pillow, and the back of my head, I've got a scar on the back of my head. It's a pressure sore because, you know, my ex-wife was there to absorb any affection and remorse that people had for her, but not really for me. So, like, I was in the room in a coma for 21 days. They had a pillow on the back of my, they put me in a medically induced coma. I don't know why to this day they did that, but the back of my head got a pressure sore on it. And what they did to remedy the pressure sore on the back of my head was not remove the pillow like they should have, because I was in a halo, where I didn't realize this until I was at RIC where they told me. So I had the halo on, right? I got the thing on my chest. I got the bolts in my forehead and in the sides of my head. Essentially, that's a cast for your neck. And when you sleep, you're supposed to just lay flat on your back and sleep on the pins, which your skull does not have nerves in it. You don't feel it anyway. So it would have been fine. What they were doing is kept putting pillows in there, which is bad for my neck.
Yeah, no.
And then when I started to get a sore, they put a donut on the sore and made the sore bigger. So like they went all about it all the wrong way. When I first got out of the hospital, I had somebody come up to me, sweetheart, sister-in-law, who was like, "Hey, my husband's got Rogaine to grow hair on his head. I could get you some put on there." I go, "Listen, sweetheart, the least of my problems are this bald spot in the back of my head. I could care less." But no, otherwise no. And I've been blessed with pretty good skin as far as that goes too. Like
Me too. I got
skin.
good. Me too. And I talked to a lot of people who've had bad. I mean, where they needed flap surgery, and I mean, even in our world, it could be worse.
Right. Now, do you do like pressure releases? I see you moving around a little bit, but
I'm fidgety.
Yeah.
So like,
do you like
just even that
right?
changes the nature of how I'm sitting.
Sure.
So
Then
that
you like
helps.
bend over and none of that kind of stuff. No, I don't do that either.
I've been blessed. I could stay up in the chair probably 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
If not longer.
Right. Me too.
And, you know, eventually, as I've gotten older, it's been tougher to stay up that long and work. And I joke with people, they ask how old, and I say in quad years, I'm like 95 in quad years.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because
yeah,
it's,
for sure.
our years are different.
Absolutely. Now, excuse me.
God bless you.
Thanks. So I think being hydrated is a good part of that too. Like I try and keep water in me. As far as they say, that's good for your skin. As far as
Yes.
that goes. So yeah, I've had no issues with that, which is great because for me, that'd be the end of me. I don't know what I would do if I had to stay like on my stomach or something for any length of time.
I've had a couple bad incidents of stuff. I shattered both femurs just falling out of my wheelchair because my bones have gotten brittle,
Right.
which kind of sucks. And I fell. I mean, 20 years ago, I could just dive out of the wheelchair.
Yeah, right.
I just fell funny. My legs got caught up under me, so I had to spend 3 months in a bed. Now, the surgeons, the specialists, all came in. They're like, we have no idea what to do.
How'd you keep your brain all right with that? Like that'd be the keeping your mental part. Would
3
be,
months, hospital bed in the family room, and I had basically soft casts on my legs that we had to open and close continually so I didn't get bed sores.
Yeah.
So their concern, which was mine, is, okay, I'm not going to walk. Let's just not worry how straight they are. I'm worried about all the other things that can happen while I'm healing.
Right.
And whatnot. Bed sores, pressure sores.
Because that's from your knee to your hip you broke, right? That's the big
The
bone.
guy said that it would have been like a motorcycle going 100 miles an hour and hitting a wall. Because they couldn't believe I just did it falling. And my legs got caught up under me.
Yeah,
and all this weight went down.
yeah.
So spending that time in bed was horrific. And that's when I wrote my first book.
Oh,
I
okay,
had started
there you go.
writing before that. So I started writing, when I had a journal from a long time ago. But I thought, well, I've got a little time on my hands.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out.
And I'm gonna take which one's the first book?
You don't have my first one. I'm still getting more
okay.
copies. But basically, it's the prequel to the one you have there.
The Rising Up? Okay.
Yes.
What you got? And I'm gonna take pictures of the covers of these on Amazon or anything
Yes.
like that. And I keep if somebody brings me something during a podcast, I've got a couple bands that came on that brought me, CDs. This is Bill Moser's book. I keep the books and everything pretty much on the table here, so people can see them, when they're here for the podcast. But so, is there something that's different here between is there a
Sure.
theme that's-
So there is. So my first book is called Up. Rising Up is the Key to Life.
Okay.
Getting Up is the Key to Life.
Right.
My bad. So that kind of chronicles getting injured all the way through and the successes I had dealing with my injury that I hope I could bring hope and some form of understanding of what we go through, but give them hope that it's not all bad. Like, you could carry these life. So that was the first one. And the second one, Rising Up, kind of took me from like maybe the last 15 years of my life and being a quad and dealing with things that you have to deal with.
Right.
The last one that came out 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, The Quad Father.
Yeah.
So I figured after 40 years, I'm pretty much an expert. On the next, I've got a master's degree at getting knocked down.
Yeah.
But I've got a doctorate.
My favorite Rocky speech is the one where he says, "It ain't how hard you can hit it; it's how hard you get it and keep moving forward."
And I've got a doctorate degree on getting back up.
Right.
So I have dealt with the disability world and community for 40 years. I've seen a lot of changes.
Sure.
And you talk about not wanting sympathy. I've never looked for it. I've
Yeah.
never liked it.
I don't like it.
Matter of fact, when I got home from RIC, and one of my dads, I quote it all the time because it's interesting and it's true. He said, if you're looking for sympathy, you can find it in the dictionary between shit and syphilis.
Yeah. Right.
So that's the kind of that was the demeanor of my dad.
Sure.
Not that he wasn't loving and wasn't helpful, but there was no poor me that ever happened in the house.
No. Right.
Unfortunately, that poor me, I think, is real prevalent in the disability community. Just because you break your neck doesn't mean that your life's over. Just because you break your neck, some people wear that like a badge, like they want something. Like, I'm disabled now.
I think you can get stuff with that too, though. You can, and I choose not to. I see women so I'm a single guy, right? Like, and I've been, I haven't been married since I was married before I got injured. I run into women who I won't go to if I go to a beer tent, I got to get out of there before everyone's drunk. Because I get so many women that are smashed and they want to grab me by the face and tell me I'm still beautiful and that, I'm like, listen, I don't need this. Like, would you do this to me if I was walking around? You wouldn't. So would you just not act like this? There's a certain sort of way to navigate through this situation when it comes to relationships. So now for you have your kids they're your kids, right? You made the children, right?
No.
Oh no, okay,
So when I got hurt, there were quads weren't having kids. You couldn't have kids.
right, okay,
Actually, we went through quite a bit of testing, and I was able to produce sperm
Yeah.
at a high level and have kids.
Right.
So we inseminated numerous times and did everything through RIC and Northwestern Exome, and it ended up we couldn't have kids. But one thing that I wanted and we both wanted was a family.
Okay.
That was non-negotiable for me. We were going to have a family.
That's awesome, yeah.
One way or another, and it was non-negotiable for my wife. And we adopted, so all three of my kids are adopted.
Okay.
Spencer is from the Blue Island area, and we got him when he was a day old. And my daughter, Sydney, is from China, and we got her when she was about a year and a half, 15 months-ish. And then my youngest son, Callahan, is from Guatemala, and we got him when he was 5 months.
Okay.
So they're all adopted, and when you ask, they have my bad habits.
yeah.
When you talk nature nurture thing, man, you can ask my wife or ask my parents or anybody. Nurture, unbelievable what the kids pick up.
Yeah,
And
I bet.
I mean, my younger son's got my sarcasm, and I get blamed. Oh, look, he said that because of you and whatnot. But no, I've got three kids that I don't care who had them. I couldn't be more blessed to have three
Oh
amazing
yeah,
kids.
no, I'm sure I couldn't even. I mean, if somehow I found out one of my kids wasn't my kid, it'd still be my kid. But so okay, so now that's a misconception too, is that like guys that are paralyzed can't,
Right.
which is nonsense because I have kids
exactly.
the same way anyone else can. But I don't want anymore. Like I'm done. But like that's a thing that like how long have you been married?
We celebrated 30 years. And there's another thing, that, and I am, you said it earlier, and I kind of look this way when they say she's a saint. You know what? She is a saint. I mean, there's no doubt
Right.
dealing with me with a disability or without a disability would make a woman a saint.
Right.
But with the disability, and works and takes care of me and raised three amazing kids and is good to my parents, and good to her parents, and all the things you would ever want in a woman, and puts herself fifth out of five of us in the house, maybe sixth if you count the dog.
Right.
I've been blessed, and I say that I really believe it and feel it.
Yeah.
That way, I don't know how else I could have been this lucky.
Well, you know what they say that, well, they don't say it. It's factual. The statistics say that the divorce rate among people that are in a relationship like that is actually lower than the
If
divorce.
you're already married.
Well, if you're already married, and if you're just two able-bodied people. Whenever people have challenges in their life and they team up to try and
Yes.
beat those challenges, it becomes you against the world. They say that interracial relationships are the better chance of surviving because both families don't really like the other, thing, so they become us against the world, and then you do just fine. When it all comes down to it, like the male vanity thing, you were 17 years old, so you're a young guy. I was 30. I was pretty when I was a kid. I was a good-looking young man. Everything else. When I broke my neck, I was seriously like, man, I fucked up this thing where I was like I said, I was 195 pounds, 6 feet tall. I could bench press 300 pounds, and generally, if I was in the bar, I could pretty much take anybody in there. So, I was walking around king of the world sort of thing. One of the first things I said to my wife when I married her was, well, now we're married, you can pretty much say anything you want to anybody because I'll kill them if they say anything to you. Like, you're the most important thing in the world. So, I lived a life where I was the boss, too. I had 5 or 6 guys that worked for me. I was the king of everything I surveyed at all times. I got paralyzed, and now it's funny to laugh at. I got paralyzed. I went to a poker tournament, and my best buddy, my lifting partner, he still looked the same as we did. And I got this guy in a poker game next to me. We're playing Hold'em, and he is giving me the lip. He's mouthing off, right?
I love that.
I know.
That's awesome.
My friend is sitting there, and he goes, "What did you just say?" And he goes, "Are you actually saying something to him?" And he goes, "Well, you got a problem with that or something like that, right?" And he goes, "No," because I don't have a problem at all. Because I'm actually kind of enjoying it. He's a shit bigger than you, and now you're lipping off. And I'm like, yeah, you know what I would have done to him years ago? I would have broken him to pieces and stuffed him in a can. And, we just laughed about it. But like male vanity, like a part of me too's got problems because
Your ego takes a big.
oh yeah,
Talk about a big
yes,
kick in the
sure,
cojones.
right.
You better get comfortable. Everybody has seen me naked. Everybody has seen.
Oh yeah, how
me.
about that?
I mean,
Like
I
at
have,
RIC.
Okay, so
there's
I
40 people that have seen me naked.
Oh,
over there.
40. We went for infertility. So I'm down there and they basically hook electrodes up to my nuts to see if they can get sperm out of me.
Yeah.
So after they juice me up and then my blood pressure goes through the roof and now they're worried about AD.
Oh yeah, right.
They're like,
right.
oh my God, we have got a group here. A couple people, would you mind if we brought them in and showed them what we're doing?
Yeah.
No.
I had that for my shower.
No,
the
I
first time.
don't mind that.
Right.
I'm not kidding you. About 17 Asians
Oh no, I did that.
with lab coats
I had like 5.
are in a room that might have fit 15 people while they're doing the procedure on me again. I have been in corporate meetings downtown at hotels and have crapped myself. I have been at corporate meetings, and that's why I always wear blue and black. You learn to, especially when you're wearing a suit, because if you pee yourself in something that's not blue or black, it stands out real bad. So blue or black, you really almost can't tell depending.
Right. Now some of that is stuff that you deal with. You have to physically deal with it when it happens, but you have to emotionally and mentally deal with it every single day because you're worried about whether it could happen.
Sure.
So like other people are walking around their life, they don't realize you don't walk around your life every day worrying you're going to crap yourself. You don't worry about the fact that, and here's the thing, like, listen, anybody can go to Taco Bell and get food poisoning. It's not going to be a situation where you can find a bathroom and go take care of that situation. For me and you, I'm going to go at home now. Like it's a week where I'm just going to stay at home because it's a mess. Like this is a big problem. So, and I watch where I go and what I eat, and if the people look like they're disgusting, then I'm not eating what came out of there, sort of thing. But it's a mental thing that you have to deal with on a regular basis, that you have to worry about that every single day.
Hey, on top of, hey, you want to go to the woods? We're going to go and throw a ball around, or we're going to go do this, or go to the game, and it's 95 degrees out. And you realize that, okay, I can do this, and I'm not going to ruin everybody else's time. I got to make sure that I move. People like, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go sit over there, and I got to grab the shade. And
So there's another one, isolation. So wrestling tournaments, a lot of wrestling tournaments, all the parents are in the stands, right? I'm never in the stands because I can't be in the stands. So I'm not up there having the conversations that I like to have with these people or anything like that. The freshman year, my boys, they've been varsity wrestlers since they were freshmen. They're the only freshmen on the varsity team. I don't really know. I know most of the parents because we grew up kind of with them coming up there. But I don't know some of them because they come from different areas or different youth clubs or whatever. We went to Team State, and where they have Team State at, the entire family's here, and the only accessible spot is like way up in the balcony. I'm all by myself. Now, what was nice for me was when the wrestlers weren't wrestling, when they had their bye, they're all up in the spot that I'm up in. Their families can't get up there, so they want to talk to their kid. They can't. I can. But I don't get to be social with all the people.
No, I understand
Before
that.
I broke my neck, I was a golfer. I did all kinds of things that were fun. Can't do any of that stuff. I had friends. Some of it's been a good thing. Like I had friends who weren't good people and good friends that faded away because I couldn't go golfing, couldn't go lift the weights. I couldn't do the things that I could do before, so they were gone. And other people have stepped in to fill those spots just fine. Women for me were another thing. I've been, I got to watch it at PetSmart. I go to PetSmart and there's ladies that like puppies there. They like to take me home, get me a bowl of milk, take care of me. I don't want anybody to do that. I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like,
I've never tried that at PetSmart.
Right, very well. PetSmart's the place they take got all the pets. So my problem with the dating thing for me is I'm mostly attracted to a woman that wants that like alpha guy that wants to be taken by the hand, that wants to be like, she doesn't want to be controlled, but she wants the guy to take the lead sort of thing. That's the kind of dynamic that works for me. And I don't fit that bill, like looks wise now, right? They look at me and think, well, he's
You
not.
think that's a look, or you think that comes from the inside?
I think it comes from the inside. The problem is the women sometimes think it's a look. You know what I mean? Like when I go to a wrestling tournament, we always laugh. My sons are tall, lanky guys, right? They're like 5'11", but they're pretty good wrestlers. And we'll see a guy that's 5'5" and he's jacked, right? He's just totally jacked, and my sons go out there and demolish him. And my sons are not jacked; they're just too tall and skinny for that thing. But if you were to, from the outside, to look at that match before it happened,
Right, you're looking at
9 out of 10 people would pick the guy that was this. I boxed. It's the same thing. You remember Thomas Hitman Hearns?
Mm-hmm.
You would not think that guy was the boxer, but the reach that he had and everything that he could do with the skills that he had, he was that guy. So looks can be deceiving for sure. And I always joke because the guys that get the tattoos of the daggers and the dragons and all their shit, they go, that's a pussy right there. Because he's doing all that so that no one will try him because he's trying to look the part. He got the bad boy starter kit, you know what I mean, and decided to look this way. That's not a tough guy. That's a guy that's trying to look tough.
Yeah, and see where I grew up in Burbank, which is by no means like suburbia
Right.
by any stretch. I grew up in this city at 57th and Mozart until I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and then we moved to Burbank. The tough guys were no different than the good guys in appearance.
Right.
You know what I mean? The tough guys proved it on the field.
Sure.
And they proved it on the court. And yes, did we fight? Oh my God, my best friend and I would fight and have fights over, I couldn't tell you what. I probably couldn't tell you what then, but one thing led to another.
Sure.
Now we're fighting, and then, the next night we're drinking a beer
Right.
and
I used to do
whatnot.
that shit then, and I don't ever talk about it. Like, now we're talking about now because it's a, part of the life situation. But I'll go to reunions and I always get this, like, there's always 2 or 3 people that are like, I used to be afraid of you and stuff like that. And I'm like, I wish that was never my goal. I never wanted that to be that way. But it ended up being that way. And I don't like it now.
I was never a tough guy. I played sports. I was a good sized kid. When I got hurt, I was 6 foot, 190 pounds. So I was a good sized kid. I was fairly popular, but I was not a tough guy. And back then, you didn't have a lot of tough. Like, that wasn't part of what my background came from.
So you were in Burbank, and I was in Bridgeview till I was 8.
right next door.
Right. Now, there was a huge difference. My parents moved out to Frankfurt when I was 8. And I always felt
So that's suburbia.
that's suburbia. We had a cornfield in the backyard. It was the country. And then I started to make some friends, too, that my parents got divorced. My mom moved south of Kankakee, down to Shabance. You get country kids down there. So I started finding some friends that I hung out with down there, hung out with kids that were in Frankfurt. And then I also had my friends that I grew up with that were from Bridgeview. The fighting and stuff takes place in the country.
Oh, totally.
Way more than the city. Everyone's got this view of the city as these kids that are gangers and all this nonsense. Those kids aren't fighting. Like, these kids out in the country got nothing to do. They're all knocking each other up, drinking, and fighting all the time. So when I go out to the country, oh my God, I would get into fights constantly with those people. But that's not something I'm proud of. I put my sons in wrestling the way I did so that they wouldn't. Where I get parents that put their kids in wrestling because they got picked on, and they want their kid not to get picked on. Wrestling doesn't work that way. You find out that even if you're the best wrestler out there, there's somebody that can beat you.
Well,
you get humbled.
We know a guy in common, Kyle Langendorf, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. And, I've coached him and been around him for his whole grammar school, high school career. And I've always found he was humble. Some other people may think he's cocky. I've always thought he was confident in his abilities.
Yes.
And that's something I just always admired. A confident kid. But after a year of college wrestling, to hear him admit and not sound so cocky or confident was interesting. Because to your point, there's always somebody bigger, better, tougher, stronger, faster,
right,
whatever out there. And you got to be able to be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I think the guy that's cocky is the guy who lifts weights, looks in the mirrors, never actually tests himself in that situation. I was always considered a cocky guy growing up too, but my situation was the first fight that I got into. I was in 5th grade. I was a 10-year-old kid, and it was like the straight up 3 o'clock at the grammar school, going to meet and we're going to fight.
Oh, yeah.
And then we fought. We went at each other for a while, beating each other. And you think you're tough. You find out, when you're 10, no one's got any skills then. But I got into numerous fights every single year, and then by the time I was in my like late teens and 20s. We're talking about every single weekend. My best buddy was a Irishman, Dan Shanahan, and all we did was go out and fight and fight and fight and fight. I mean, if there weren't girls by 10:30 at night, we were looking for a dude to beat up. So, and like, we weren't picking them. We were not big guys, so guys would, get into it. And we wouldn't back down. I became cocky because after you've been in 30 fights, you know where your limits are, and you know most other guys don't have that same skill set. So, but you do get humbled when you run into somebody who hands you your ass. But if you're just a guy, that doesn't ever get his ass handed to him, then you don't ever have that feeling. But but those are things as a male. For the most part, being paralyzed like we are, you are an active guy. That's who gets paralyzed, because you're playing football, you're doing the construction job, you're doing something to get that situation to happen. It's also a male-dominated situation too. When I was on the floor at RIC, there were 28 patients on the floor. 2 of them were female. The other 26 were male.
Yeah, I think I remember one girl that broke her back, and she was walking. So she was in pretty much not a body cast, but from her hips up. And you're right, it is a male thing. I did it doing something I loved that I had done thousands of times.
Right. Well,
It
the
is
couple
what it
that I
is.
saw, the one girl that I saw there, and I mean, she was a sweetheart. She went on to get highly educated. She was skiing and she broke her neck, sort of a situation. Now, that's the other one too. Me and you paralyzed in sort of a similar spot. I saw guys that were paralyzed at 4, at 3.
Yeah, 2 that
At
were
2,
like
right.
Christopher Reeves.
They were right.
Where they were on a ventilator, they were on
Right.
sip and puffs.
Right.
Where they had to rely on everything. And man, you look at that and you're just thankful to be a C5, C6 quad.
Right.
And I mean, you appreciate
The
it.
tiny bit of independence that you can get, it is priceless. As far as, could someone just leave me alone for a little bit? Because I'd like to just be on my own and do what I want to do on my own. I want misconceptions to be broken down, and I'm gonna, do a series of these podcasts with the quadriplegic or paralyzed stuff like that. Anytime I can get someone that's functioning and doing stuff that I want them to come on and talk about it. If I could get someone who was really having a hard time, I'd like to talk to them too, because I'd like them not to have a hard time.
Well, see, if I can come up with anybody that might be interested, most of the guys that I came through the system with, being paralyzed, have moved to warmer climates,
That's
which
a
is,
thing for sure, yeah.
oh my gosh, I played quad rugby for RIC.
Oh, did you?
So I played that for 5 or 6 years. I swam for Marion Joy. And a lot of those people are gone. Some of them are still here and they're crazy involved with the disability community.
I had the rugby guys come to me, and when I was in there, they're like, "We heard you were an athlete." And I go, "It looks interesting, guys. It really does. But you don't understand. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old twins. I am gonna deflect all my energy into them doing their thing." So that's what I did. Sometimes I regret it, because I think I would have had fun doing the quad rugby thing and stuff like that. I think it would have been a good time. But as far as the the vanity thing, that was definitely a thing, as far as having to deal with that. There's never a time now. I still don't care for a full length mirror. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, really? What did you do?
Is it the chair?
It's the body stuff. It's
Okay, so the quad gut.
the
wee
little quad gut
gut,
bothers
yeah.
me to death.
I
I
got
had a 6-pack, man. I was like a ripped dude before I was, paralyzed. So that to me is hard to look at. And then, you know what? I don't think of myself as that paralyzed guy. I don't. And then when I see me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what other people are seeing, because I'm just doing what I'm doing, and I'm doing everything that I'm doing, and I don't think about it. I think that's the beauty part of the male-female thing. As far as we're lucky, I would not want to be a female in this situation, because guys, I can find a guy who's down in the mouth about his girlfriend, and I can be like, dude, you're out of your mind. And I'm not saying this because I'm in a wheelchair. She's gorgeous. She's a sweetheart. You're lucky to have her. You've outkicked your coverage, pal. And he rethinks the whole thing. He's like, Bill said you were hot, so that works out fine. I'm doing well. Now, if I would have said the opposite, dude, you could do better, she's a dog, he would have been dumping her in a minute, because they are so shallow. They need to have that thing on their arm. Women have a totally different outlook on things. They try and look at the person in there and everything else, which is definitely works out better. So like, it's definitely, I feel for the women that are the few that are in this situation. Driving, how long was it before you drove?
4 years, 5 years.
How was the technology back then?
It's exactly the same.
Oh, really?
See, my first driving experience was a car. So, which wasn't easy. We got a big old, what was it now? It was a big old 70-something. We took the back seat out. And most of the time when I was coming or going, somebody from the house would help me get the chair in. Where I was going, I was picking somebody up, 99.9% of the
Sure.
time. So they could help me if I needed it.
Right.
But it was just the simple hand controls and the spinner knob. That hasn't changed, and
Now, do you use a spinner knob now or a tripod?
I use neither, nothing.
Oh, nothing. Okay. I use a tripod. I like it. You know what I mean? Just be able to, turn and do whatever. you
Yeah,
want.
I had one, and it got my cuff, because I wore a dress shirt for 22 years, got caught in it, and I almost took me off the road.
Ooh, yeah.
I just got used to not having anything.
Oh, no, right. You can adapt.
So I've got the 6-way power seat. Why? Because I don't want to drive on my wheelchair. I sit in this thing all day. So it's another form of exercise. It's another form of getting out of this chair, which as comfortable as they make them, as you well know, is nice to get out of. And
Absolutely.
sitting in a captain's seat is way more comfortable.
Sitting in my van is way more comfortable than this chair for sure. I do think about, like, there's times, so I'm a real estate broker. I'm in and out of that van like so many times during the day that there are times where I would like to. Have you seen what they do with the pickup truck now? Where the whole cab comes down, and then you pop in there in the chair and then back in there. Like, I'm thinking seriously about doing that as far as the way that I'd like to go. And then, but I don't know yet because I do like to just jump into the thing. The other thing that would be nice about if I had a van where I drove from my chair would be that I don't have to store the chair anywhere in the van. So that would be a big. How many vans have you had?
I have never bought it brand new, so I always get them with a couple miles on it. So I'm on my probably 5th one, and I'm in and out. I mean, there are days I'm in and out of it 10 times.
Do you find that? Because the only one I've done is this one that I've got. It's a 2006. It's got 170,000 miles on it now. Do you find that you make out like financially better by buying the used one? Because sometimes I see them for almost nothing.
Yeah.
On there, people can't get rid of them, sort of thing.
There's no market for them. And see, my last van, I didn't get the raised roof and I didn't get a floor dropped. So yes, I got a knot in the back of my head from hitting it if I didn't bend over enough. But because I always transferred into the captain's chair and I drove 99.99% of the time, I might have to keep my head bent over while I transferred, and then I'd lower the seat down, turn and drive. So I didn't. The easiest thing for me was to not raise, not drop, because it's expensive, and then you're dealing with, okay, now you got to make sure your garage will fit it. And nowadays they drop the floors, and that adds 20 grand onto the price of a van.
I'm driving a $65,000 van that I get no pussy from. I mean, I'm joking, but it's not
a woman catcher by any stretch.
No,
trust me.
I'm driving.
I love it, and I've all gotten Ford E150s, and they stopped making them last year. And we looked and looked and looked, and you cannot find. I ride them hard. I drive them hard, and I have had such awesome luck with the Fords. I keep them over 100,000. And, I'm transporting kids. I got 3 kids, and not including their friends that are in and out and up and down. And
right.
I mean, I get my money's worth. You know what you pay. So,
right.
And like there are days I'm in and out of it 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Yeah. Now, see, my therapist, who I dated, was very conscious of you're doing too many transfers. Like, that's too hard on your shoulders. I don't really find it that to be that big of a deal. I try and do a lot of exercise where I'm I get in that power chair, lay down flat, and I'm pulling toward me because all day I'm pushing away. Now, do you have a power assist? Is that what you got going on in the wheels?
I did about 7, 8, 9 years ago, whatever it was. I just tended, after 30 something years of pushing, transferring.
Yeah.
pushing on a football field.
Sure.
Um,
That's tough too. I went
Talk about a
camping for a
workout.
3-day weekend the one time. You know what? That's one thing that is nice for like I found. I can arrange everything that I need to do for my bowel program and everything else on a camping trip because I can just use the tent as my personal little spot and everything else to be. So camping works out pretty nice for me. But I pushed around on grass for an entire. I came home. I went up my ramp like no. I'm like, oh my god, I got to push around.
So
the
that's
grass.
where I got strong was,
Yeah.
and then my kids always all had strong legs because if it came to a big hill or we were out, I'm like, all right,
Push it,
push,
push it.
I'm like push and whatnot. But I still use a sliding board. I use a sliding board in my van,
Sure.
so it's helped. But I went to the manual assist because I have tendonitis and bursitis and every itis out there that.
So that's another one. We didn't cover that. Like, I got bursitis a couple times. Oh, is that painful? And so it like,
Elbow, shoulder,
Oh,
anywhere
yeah.
you got a joint. So
Yeah.
for us, we're using shoulders, people use their legs, and
Yeah.
they're not
They're not
meant for
designed
weight
for that.
bearing
Right.
a person's body like a person's legs are.
Yes.
So shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it in any possible spot that I have feeling. Of course, that's what.
right. So, I mean, these are things that like we have to deal with over and above. Everybody's got their situations. You can have a blister on your foot. You can, whatever you got going on. But like, yeah, I want people to I want people to understand that we don't want sympathy, but we do need understanding as far as like, this is what's going on here. And some people get it. Like I get people that stop me at a wrestling tournament. They're like, we've seen you here for so long. Can't believe how far your boys have come and all this other stuff. And you did it all. And I'm like, yeah, I appreciate those things.
Sure.
Now, do I need you to open every single door that I get to? No, I got this. I've been doing this for a long time. I've got to figure
I
this
know,
out.
but there's a generation out there, and what cracks me up, I see this same discussion on Facebook, and it's amazing the people that get offended, like really offended by it. And I'm like, part of my answer is, one, I don't get offended because
No.
what's lost in this, my opinion, one of the things lost in this generation are those nice things that we grew up just. You opened a door for somebody that was elderly. You didn't do it because they couldn't open it. You didn't do it because you felt bad for them.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't do it because they had gray hair. You did it because it was the right thing to do. If you were on a bus, you gave a woman a seat.
Sure.
It wasn't because she was overweight or old or
I
heavy or
appreciate
pregnant.
every single person that
So
opened the door,
I mean,
for sure.
people who I know too many people who get bent about little stuff like that. It's
Right.
like you talked about. What's the first question you get it, or second question? Can you still have sex? Listen, dude. Have you thought about how you're going to work, finish your education, get a job, drive, get back into life?
Yes,
You're
right.
worried about sex.
Right.
And you have no clue
Yeah.
as to anything else out there.
No.
And that's what you're worried about?
Right.
I mean,
Well, it is kind of a, your basic primitive function as far as that goes to appropriate the, right. And I mean,
I was 17 and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go.
It was like the farthest thing from my mind.
Really?
Until I started probably dating a little more, and then it was, you got an external catheter. But that might not be the worst thing either. There's ways where there's a will, there's a way, or
Yeah.
whatnot. So,
Right.
I went to college and I found there's all types of people out there, and girls didn't shy away. Some girls did. I didn't know who they were, but
I think I call it my asshole filter. So there's women that I probably would have dated when I was walking around that won't make eye contact with me because they're not interested in dating somebody, like that. Like they don't want that to happen, sort of thing, right? And I'm fine with that. Like at first I was like, oh, she's kind of good looking, that's not good. But if she's an asshole, then I don't need that anyway. Like I wouldn't need
whether
her
you're walking or whether you're in the chair.
Right, exactly. So like it works out fine. And I mean, I have, like I said, there are times where there's drunk ones that I gotta be like, get away from. But I've had that's not been a problem as far as it goes. And it's not anything that I think about as far as that goes. I have a weird look at the wheelchair thing. I honestly look at people in a chair if they're doing everything, and I think more highly of them than I would if they were walking around doing it. My sons say stuff like, you do more than a lot of parents do that are walking around. And I'm like, yeah. And I go, you guys don't even know the half of what it takes to do what I'm doing. So I always considered myself, I always looked at a person, we talked about being tough before. Mentally tough was a guy I would gauge it by. So I went to a party in Tinley Park, and there was a guy there that I knew was a tough guy, and we didn't get along. It was over a girl. We're gonna fight, right? So at some point tonight, it's outside. We're gonna do this. So we do it. He gets the best of me, right? And he got me pretty good. So I went and I grabbed a beer, cleaned up a little bit, drank my beer, and I went back over by him and I said, "Hey, let's go again. See." And he goes, "All right." And he went again. He thought he had it, right? He didn't get me the second time. And I always gauge that mental toughness on a lot of guys take a beating and then they're done. They're beaten. Then they walk around the rest of their life thinking, this guy is here and I'm here because he beat me. I wasn't going to let that happen. I was going to be like, hey. And now we saw each other after that. We had a mutual respect for the fact that he decided to go again. He could have walked away and said, no, I'm not going to fight you again. What do I got to? We had nothing to win. He already won. But he did, so I thought he was tough. He thought I was tough because I took a beating and I came back and took it again. I was mentally tough then. I'm far more mentally tough now after dealing with all this. There's nothing that would stop me. I mean, I've had situations where if I fell out in my yard, I'd have to drag my ass up my ramp and like in here. The way that because I am really independent, if I fall out of my chair, which has happened a couple times, and most of the time naked, which sucks. The way that I get back up into my chair is I get my power chair that's got the leg rest on there. I get my ass onto the footrest, and then I tilt that thing all the way up in the air where I'm dangling in the air, balancing, working the joystick, and then I flip onto my bed, and then I get the chair back set up, and I get back in the chair.
It's resourcefulness.
Right.
And I was never that tough guy like that, where I never looked for a fight. My mouth would get me in trouble because I was quite witty and sarcastic.
Sure.
And a lot of the guys didn't like that, especially the short guys that had short man disease where they're always
Napoleon
looking.
syndrome. Yeah.
Oh my God. And it was kind of funny. So I never viewed myself as tough or not tough. I played football. You were pretty tough to play sports.
Yeah.
You played sports. I got in fights. I could count them on my fingers. Not many.
Right.
I don't even, the winning and the what wasn't, I didn't look at it as winning and losing, even though, like you, sometimes you ended up on the good side, sometimes you ended up on the bad side. It taught you lessons, more about yourself than the other guy.
That's my favorite.
More about yourself than the other guy, because you got to look in the mirror, and that's the only one I challenge for the last 40 years, is that guy looking back at me, because I've got nothing to prove to anybody. You want to be a tough guy? You come sit in my chair, and I'll tape up your hands, and you spend a weekend in a wheelchair, and we'll see who's tough.
Yeah, at the end of the week,
you can't do what I can do.
Yeah, you're gonna be naked.
There's nobody
right.
mentally tough. My next book, and I've been toying around, is going to be on grit. And actually, Kyle's one of the guys I talked to, because I went to elite athletes, people that were in the Olympics, and that fascinates me.
Yeah.
What do these guys? What do these people have? Mike Mendoza.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that served and won numerous medals, was blown up, and you would never know it. He doesn't walk around like the world's tough, or complain about not being able to hear out of one ear.
Sure.
I've got another friend who did 5 tours as a minesweeper. And he doesn't walk around with a chip on his shoulder.
No.
And he doesn't walk around saying, I got PTSD because I had it tough and I had tough experiences. Those guys,
Mike
man,
talked about,
they're tough.
Right.
Mike's got things he's...
Right, Mike talked about, not that. Mike talked about the guys like you're talking about, and he said there's a culture of people that were in the military, some of them that weren't even combat vets, that all claim disabilities now. And he's got a very short fuse.
Oh, yeah, he
very
does.
short, like,
he has no temperament for
that.
No.
He's very, and he'll say stuff like, that guy didn't do what I did, and now he's permanently disabled.
I get somebody like Mike Mendoza. He had his body blown up.
Yeah.
He has 1,000 reasons to be disabled,
Yeah, right.
but he chooses not to. And
We
same thing
deal
with
with
this guy.
that too on a daily basis, because every time you pull into a Sam's or a Walmart or something like that, you can't find a handicap spot. And then you go into the damn store and you can't find a handicapped person, right? I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone to a wrestling tournament and there's 16 handicap spots. I'd like to lobby somebody like to get. I'd love to see some handicap spots at the back of the parking lot. I don't need the distance. I don't care about.
No, me.
You know
I
what
just
mean?
can't have somebody park next to me.
Yes.
And they park on the lines all the time.
They
And
park
I've
on the
gotten
line,
into
right,
it with
right.
the county sheriffs. I've gotten verbally into it with them because they blew it off like, oh, don't worry about it. What's your problem? Well, my problem is if I bring my son up here and he's 9 years old and I need to go home and leave, I can't do it unless I ask some knucklehead to pull my van out, which has hand controls and other things on it. And how about this? How about the wrong? They illegally parked. How about that? Simple.
Sure.
They illegally parked. It doesn't need to be a debate. There's no debate. They parked illegally.
And let's explain what illegal is. Listen, if you drive your grandmother around and you have that placard, that does not mean you can take her car with the placard to the movie theater and park in the handicap spot. It also doesn't mean that if you drive your grandmother around that you can drive your grandmother sits in the car that she's the handicap person.
And then you run in.
And you run in and you're parked in the handicap spot. That's illegal. That's not the way.
How many times I run into? I was only running in for a minute.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I could count it.
Well, those guys, I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but I am. I'll pull behind some of those people sometimes and just sit there for a while. And they're like honking and looking at me. I'm like, oh, I had to wait for you. So now you're going to wait for me to make my phone call and do whatever I'm going to do because you're going to sit there. Because, listen, this whole life takes me a lot longer than it takes you to do anyway. And now I got to wait at Walgreens here because you're parked in the handicap spot.
I pulled behind him, gotten out of the van, gone into the store.
Leave your car there.
They left it there.
Yeah, right. And then they're mad. I mean, I don't get any of it. I mean, and what's funny is I don't, if you see me sitting in a car, I don't look like I'm paralyzed. I look like a regular dude.
I get looks all the time.
Yep. And then all of a sudden they see me come and they're like, oh, that. And then.
Oh, I have people, you've probably seen it, where they'll wait around.
Yeah.
And then they see the door open up, and then they get the curious look. Then they see the ramp come down.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're gone.
I've had people say something to me like summertime, windows down. What are you doing parking that parking spot? And I go, just give me a second, and I'll show you. And I get out there, I'm in the wheelchair, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, I'm like, listen, you should, and I don't assume either. Listen, if you've got a heart condition or I can't see that maybe or something like that, that's fine. But, if you're as old and fat, like, this is not a necessity that you need. You don't need to park in these spots. I swear people at wrestling tournaments talk to their doctor and get a placard just because they can't find a parking spot.
It's not wrestling. It's wrestling. It's football. It's baseball. It's basketball. Trust. I mean, it's everything. It's just we have become a me society, and we don't think about others. I mean, there's
Right. Like I said, I would just like to have those spots at the back of the parking lot. I can get out of my van. It'd be fine. And
just van parking, not handicap parking, just van parking. And if you pull in with a car, you could get ticketed. Because even in a car, if you could get in and out of a car, unless they park on top of you, outside the lines, you can get in. But with guys like us, with a ramp, I need a full spot. We're darn close to it.
See, I drive a car too. When I drive the car, I've got somebody with me, or I got a Subaru, and the Subaru is like it's amazing in the snow and ice. So if there's I've never missed a match for my sons. Like I go to every single one. I don't care if it's 6 inches of snow that day. I go. Generally, I go in the van. But now with the Subaru, I'll take that thing instead. And I'll just call ahead to one of their parents. Hey, can you do me a favor? Yank my chair out, sort of deal. I only need a regular parking spot then. I don't care where I park at that point.
Exactly.
So that's a thing for sure. I don't know how you deal with. Do you have any pain? Like right now, my hands are like they're on fire.
I'm in pain every day.
Every day, right.
Yeah, every day. So I mean, to a point, and this is one of those things like you say, you get used to going out and you're smiling, and unfortunately, the family takes the shitty end of that because when you're out, I'm not going to complain in front of anybody. I probably will when I get home be like, okay, I'm laying down. Can you get me maybe 2 Motrin or something like that? Mm-hmm. Because I have had, when I broke my legs, they gave me pain medication, the fentanyl patch. They gave me.
How did you not get out of time with dysreflexia with the broken bones?
Didn't happen. Not the AD.
No, okay, so.
But the pain med still works.
Is a shock. So a guy, I used to carry a card. I don't know if I hear one of my.
I don't explain what AD is.
Right, because no one knows. If I somehow broke my toe, I could go into autonomic dysreflexia, and it's shock. It's a situation where you start to sweat. You can
Oh, you can die from
right.
it, right? Because your heart rate goes up, and basically you could have a stroke. So I was laying in the room, and the nurse came in. She's like, "How you doing? You know, a lot of pain." I go, "Well, I'm a quad." I go, but I started sweating, and I could feel my heart rate go up. And so, of course, I had to explain what AD was because 99%
These are health professionals that don't know.
they have no clue
Right.
of what AD is. And I said, she's like, "Do you want pain meds?" And I'm like, probably, because at that point now, I was sweating, which that's our body's response to pain when we can't feel it.
Right.
I was starting to shake and have convulsions because the body inside knew there was something wrong.
Right.
Even though I couldn't feel my legs per se, they didn't hurt.
Sure.
But your body knows.
Right.
So yeah, they gave me pain meds. The problem now and that was when I had my legs broke. Pain meds don't work on me. So my bad shoulders, my elbows, pain meds don't work because
I stay
meds
away from pain meds terribly. I stay as far as I can from because of the constipation thing. Like I don't want to be bound up because I took
that, and pain meds. All they do is shut off what the brain is sensing.
Yeah, which
So
already got that shut off.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of.
Right.
And then people are like, "Well, how come you're in pain?" Well, the 10% of my body I can feel does sense it, and then you.
Yeah, and I don't get that either because I don't know how that works for me. Like you said, I don't know if it's phantom pain or what, but like right now, both my feet feel like they're asleep, like they're like buzzing, sort of thing. It's become my normal. I always say that it's why I don't believe in hell, because you can get used to anything. If tomorrow, if I was perfectly normal, like fine before I was injured, and then somebody just put the feeling that I have on me today, I would be like, what? I gotta get to the hospital. Something's terribly wrong with what's going on. But this is how it is. I didn't sleep for like any length of time for like maybe 4 weeks after I came out of the coma, just because this pain was insane. And then they want to give you every pill in the world. I don't want anything to do with that stuff. They gave me Neurontin, which was a thing that was supposed to stop the diabetic nerve pain situation. But what it did for me was make me feel kind of euphoric. And I felt like everything's going to be okay all the time. And that's not a way to go through life. I needed to feel like, hey, you better get your ass and do this, get your ass and do that. And for me, I had the little kids. I needed to immediately get to work. So like I got my real estate license and started selling real estate as soon as I could. Where if I didn't have kids, I think a law degree would have been what I would have liked to, because I think that's something that I would have been interested in. And then I could have put that to work. And I knew a couple of lawyers that were in wheelchairs that I was like, that could work out. You know what I mean? I can make a decent living and still be a guy in a wheelchair. So like, I want people to understand that there's, like with Brian, there's like, it's impressive what you've done to live your life and do everything you've done, because you essentially did everything you did, and you have like 18% of your body that you can use, and you drug the rest of it around with you the rest of the time to do everything you did, and the rest of it didn't agree with what you wanted to do. Your body said, I don't want to do this. I want to take a shit right now, and this is going to be a problem for you. Right? So, I mean, you had this whole thing going on, and then like, the spasms and everything else, my body does not want to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So it's definitely been more to do. I look at my life more like I've accomplished more, because it's not, that's another reason the Donald Trump thing doesn't appeal to me. He was born on third base and he thinks he hit a triple. The guy who comes from nothing and goes to here, it's the distance traveled, it's the journey that he took.
I agree.
That makes the deal. Nobody would, I mean, maybe not though. I said something to my sons and they're like, I never thought about being like these are inspirational books, right?
Yes.
But I've never thought about myself like being an inspirational speaker, sort of a thing.
Isn't that what you're doing when you're coaching? Aren't you inspiring
I
kids?
am, but not from a place.
But you're inspiring. No, it's a total. I agree with you, because a guy like you looks at being an inspirational speaker like a cheerleader, and I'm not a cheerleader. I mean, I will support my team. I will
the stuff
support.
that you're doing, I look at like it's real. Like someone should be inspired by this, because there's people out there that can't hold a job. There's people out there that can't function just a normal life that they can't have, and they're walking around, and they should be able to read this and be like, hey, if this
I
guy
hope
can
so.
do it, get my ass up and do what I got to do, because I can actually get my ass up and do it. When I see motivational speakers like Tony Robbins and like, I just think it's bullshit. I just think it's like just nonsense. There's that Russian dude that's always talking shit too. Like, and they're all like guys that were entrepreneurs or something like that. Listen, I own my own company. I didn't get to call myself an entrepreneur every time I was a contractor, for fuck's sake. So like, like some of that stuff is just spoon-fed nonsense. This is not. This is somebody who actually, you got dealt a huge blow. It knocked you on your ass literally, and then you decided, I'm not going to sit here and do this. And okay, I didn't have the option. So actually, like, I look at you and say, you should be more impressed with a guy like Brian than me, because you had the option. Could you have just relied on everyone to do everything for you, and they would have felt sorry for you and done the things for you? And,
Probably.
right, but inside you,
To some degree.
right?
Because I knew it wouldn't last, and I knew it wasn't right, and I knew it wasn't what was expected out of me.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons I didn't. It wasn't even a question. Like, I never even thought of that. Like,
Right.
that's not what you did. That's not the way it was brought up.
Right.
You get up, and you take a hit, and then you get up and you take another hit. You know that, right? Hey, whether it's a fight, whether it's football, whether it's life, you get back up.
Right. Well, we're about 2 hours and 15 minutes into it. I'd like to have you back again because there's so
No,
much
I would
more we
love
can
to.
talk about.
I've got an idea for you because I think
Good.
this would be interesting. I think you should find the wife of somebody who's disabled,
Yes.
and I think their perspective would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I
we'll do that.
I don't
Sure.
know who you could get, possibly, but to put up with somebody for 30
Brian's
years.
wife is here with us, so right. Inside joke.
My wife is here of 30 years. God bless her, and we agree on 99% of everything in life. I mean, we really do. It is it's a godsend, and I say that all sincerely. That her as a mother, her as a daughter-in-law, her as a sister. I mean.
See, my family did not deal with, my extended family did not deal with this very well at all. And I mean, my dynamic was different. When I was a contractor, I only helped my family when my roof
Needed
was
something?
leaking. Yeah, my roof's leaking, my this, they need that, and everything else. And then what was funny was even when I got injured, like, hey, we're going to put an addition on, and they needed to, me to come over and look at everything and everything else. And I talked them through the whole process and how to interview a contractor and all that other shit. But then as soon as they had the job done, they didn't need me again. And I was like, you know what? I don't need you either. All right, this is not something that I.
You find out real quick who your friends are. Don't you?
Yep. I don't associate with any of my extended. I have two sisters and both my parents. They're all alive. I just don't talk to them. Like, I don't have any.
No,
and
it's
I
a
don't,
shame.
right.
But that's a two-way street.
Right.
No, it's a two-way street.
Right. It's
and
fine.
at some point you got to make a decision. Are they sucking the energy out of me, or is there value there?
Right.
And I don't have time. We talked to it went back to politics. These haters who just hate somebody because you're a Republican. I hate you, or you're a Democrat. I hate you.
Nonsense.
I don't have time for hate in my life.
Right.
It is so absorbing. It's cancerous. So I don't hate somebody who has a different opinion. I mean, I don't have time to hate.
Right.
I mean, that's such a strong word.
Right.
If people really think about it, I don't care how much you dislike Trump or you might have disliked Obama. I don't have time to hate either of them.
Sure,
just like you, I got to spend all my energy just running my life forward and being there for my family and kids. I don't have the energy to hate.
I was extremely let down. I had high hopes for the Obama presidency, and then I was extremely let down when it all happened. He became the same corporate shill that they all are, as far as they goes. And I thought maybe he'd be outside of it enough that he wouldn't be, but he ended up taking all kinds of money from Goldman Sachs, and it just was not.
You think you're pissed? What about all of the African Americans who thought their life was going to change? I mean,
Yeah,
I
don't
live by.
identity politics is not my thing. So
Yeah, no, but
I didn't vote for him because he's black, is what I'm saying. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it. I saw a guy who came from a single mother. He came from humble beginnings. He was head of the law review at Harvard. He made something of himself from nothing, and I had high hopes that he would keep those nothing roots and help people that came from nothing.
he was bought. He was bought while he was in college, law school.
Yeah,
I mean, he was
right,
bought.
Like I said,
it was
not my guy.
Yeah, no, and actually, I wasn't a fan, but I had hopes, like you said, that we came from this city. I mean, our city. Not to get. I'm not going to spend more than 30 seconds.
No.
I mean, our city. I was hoping he would have answers to the education problems, answers to maybe some of the gang problems, answers to help all the cities that are struggling because of something that's gone on for years, whether that be Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, and just that was, and he came from there. I mean,
Right. Well, that was my high hopes, and it didn't really pan out that way. So yeah, I mean, but I like I said, I enjoy having conversation with somebody who has a different point of view too. So like, I don't want anyone out there to ever think that like that my podcast is certainly not. I have no agenda. Like I'm not trying to push a side or anything like that. The only thing that my politics are strictly dictated by. I consider myself a progressive, and when I say that, I don't mean tree hugging. Whatever. It's something like what I mean is. I want solutions that I see there could be progress for the country. That's what I want. So and I find out that I agree with, I had two guys in a row here that were avid Trump supporters, like defenders on the internet, like all that other kind of stuff, which I'm like, I don't know why you want to die on that hill for that guy. He couldn't care less about you. But so, and we talked about issues, and it turned out that like the one guy's like, he goes, I'm pretty sure that I'm a Republican and you're a like Democratish guy. I'm not a Democrat because I've never voted that kind of ticket. But he goes, we agree on like 90%. And I'm like, well, then we need to figure out how to do that. Because people throw around this Civil War thing. That was a terrible time in our country. Brothers killed brothers. We killed the most Americans in a war. It was horrific. And people talk about that like it's flippant, like it's nothing. And I'm like, listen, we need to find a dialogue to have with people.
Totally, because what's happening out there is, and not to get into conspiracy theories, but I mean, there is an elite that is pulling a lot of strings.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sorry, Johnny Lunchbucket, like you and me, blue collar guys, we pay the toll for anything.
If you look at where the effective tax rate is, it's been shifted and shifted and shifted to the middle class is carrying the burden of the tax thing.
But that's what I agree with you 100%.
Right. And the problem is that my line is always, listen, this party thing, this tribalism thing is nonsense. There's one party, and if you're in the middle class, you ain't invited. There's a party going on, and it just ain't us. And I think the thing that goes across aisles all the time for most everybody I talk to, even some of the most fanatical Republicans and Democrats, is no one likes when they hear about Amazon making $11 billion and paying $0 in taxes. No one likes that. And they don't like that from a gut reaction. But then when you start talking about, well, wait a minute, too, you got to start factoring in the fact that, Jeff Bezos, his entire workforce learned how to read, write, and do math from the public school system, and he pays nothing into the public school system. Now, he's making money off of a system that he pays nothing into. If you ask me, and if you're a regular Joe working at a job, or you're a lunch pail Joe, you're, turning a wrench all day long, you don't have employees. You make your money from what you do every day. So you got your education in public school. That's fine. You got to pay a little something in there. But Jeff Bezos should be paying a higher percentage than that guy does because he makes all his money off of all these people that got their education there. Also, I don't have a fleet of 100,000 trucks on the highway destroying the highway, putting potholes everywhere.
Yep,
Jeff Bezos
I got to pay for it.
But I'm the one fitting the bill. So that's not right. And everybody in any political spectrum goes, that's not right. But anyways, come back to us.
No, I'd love to. I appreciate it.
And if you have the other book stuff, are these on Amazon?
They're on Amazon.
Okay, good.
Or
So
you can get them through my nonprofit, and we could talk about that maybe another time.
Yes, let's do that.
SoarNonprofit.com. I would love to come back. This was awesome. I agree with you. It's nice to have a conversation and have different opinions and be able to intelligently talk without feeling like you've got to delete somebody from your friend list. I'll never get that.
So send me some links to.
I will. Please.
Underneath in the description, I'll put the links to the nonprofit and then whatever else you got going on, and then I will put the links to the Amazon places to buy the books from. I don't know, Al. Thanks for coming, and I appreciate it. On every podcast, I beg and plead because the blood of this whole thing is the subscribe button down there for the YouTube video. So if you're friends with Brian and you're I know we've got a bunch in common actually, friends, and you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. Just click the subscribe button. It does nothing. It doesn't even email you anything. All it does is the next time you get on YouTube, on the very bottom, you'll have a little red icon. If you click on it, it'll show you that we have new videos that are up, so you can see the new videos. What it does is it lets me know that the conversation that you listen to with me and Brian is something that you enjoyed, and then I'll do more conversations that are along those lines. You know, if you only enjoyed the one with the, you know, I had a witch on, one time that does witchcraft. If I got the most things there, we're looking for more witches because people like that. So, you know, please subscribe. If you can, follow us on Podbean. Follow the podcast on iTunes. Interact with us on there. If you have something that you want to say, or if you think you know somebody that should be on a podcast to talk about what they do, I mean, you know, we chipped at a tenth of what goes on in your life and my life as far as the wheelchair stuff goes. And then, you know, the accomplishments that you've had too. We didn't really get into that either. So, you know, but help me out, subscribe. I usually put a video along with it with my sons that do the how to subscribe thing to the YouTube video. But thanks, man. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you much.